So 5, 4. So we are live, everybody. And for those of us who are watching later, in the replay, knows that we usually BS for about 5 minutes to get everybody get a chance to get here and people the chance to share the video. And it's when I, in sinister fashion, hide Michael behind a logo. So,
sinister fashion.
Yes. So I usually do like a icebreaker question while we're sharing the videos and stuff. I guess my icebreaker questions are usually based on what I did before. Like the one I asked about coffee was because I just came from getting coffee. So how about what do you take any sort of multivitamins or supplements or anything like that? Because I've got my somewhere around here. I just saw my bottle of multivitamins. So let's let that be the icebreaker question today. Or no, Nia's got one. Nia's got one. Let's put hers up there. Favorite Halloween candy. We'll save the vitamin one for another time. Michael, you mess with Halloween candy?
I mess with candy, period. Yeah.
You and me both. You have a favorite?
Ooh. You know, when you don't live by yourself, you don't always get to choose. So you kind of just get to used to whatever comes in the house is fair game, you know?
Yeah, I do most of the grocery shopping, although these days we've been doing some Instacart. But I do most of the grocery shopping, so I get to pick out my own guilty pleasures. And I recently discovered Snickers with the almonds, and that's been my new thing.
Oh, I'm not sure that would be I don't know if I'd want it like that.
I am for it. I don't know why, but it's so much better than the regular Snickers.
Yeah. My wife just reminded me I don't like debris in my
debris. Jasmine, can you hear us, or are you
Nope, I can hear you guys.
You want to chime in?
Yes, I'm in. You know what? I didn't realize I was quite in the show. So I thought you guys were going back and forth. I'm sorry about that.
Oh no, you in the show?
I'm not a big candy girl at all. I am a cake and pie girl. So Halloween has always been about dressing up, but not necessarily about the candy. If there had to be a candy, then it probably would be almond M&Ms or peanut M&Ms. One of those two would probably be my favorite.
What you got to say about that, Michael?
I like peanut or plain on the M&Ms. I love M&Ms. Sometimes that's all I need. Is the chocolate and the candy shell.
I was gonna say that is the peanut M&Ms too much debris for you, or is that?
No, that's less like debris because then it's because it's a peanut is it's sizable. That's mostly what you experience. It's like a peanut with chocolate. It's not like chocolate with something in it.
I'm gonna remember that you called it debris. So what's an example of a candy bar that doesn't have debris in it?
Oh, like Hershey, like straight up chocolate. A Hershey bar.
Okay, so that reminds me of a story I've always been meaning to ask you. So in one of the other podcasts that you did, you talked about you, and I think it was Kirk, raiding Prince's stash of Dove bars.
Oh, I admitted to that?
Yeah, you did admit to that. And it's how that I learned that Prince liked Dove bars. And so what I always wondered was it Dove ice cream bars or Dove chocolate candy bars?
Oh, it was the ice cream.
See,
they had the bars, and they also had the little ones. And we'd be taking a break from rehearsal. And one day we just kind of wandered in there and opened the refrigerator. There was another refrigerator where they kept the storage at, like stored goods. And we opened the refrigerator. It was like 6 boxes of Dove bars. We looked around to see if anybody was looking, and we just jacked them.
So how long, if you and Kirk hadn't gotten in there, how long would 6 boxes of Dove bars last Prince?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, he had a sweet tooth, definitely.
When I heard you tell that story, maybe you didn't tell that story on a podcast. Maybe you told that to me personally, and I just I accidentally made it public. I don't know. But
that's all. Yeah, see, that's the thing. The line is blurry now. you don't know what we talked about before or what we're about to talk about. So it's all that's why I have to be very careful what I tell you.
But so whenever I heard that story, I always wondered if it was. I always assumed it was the Dove chocolate bars.
No, he might have had those too, but what we discovered was in the freezer.
So I feel like I'm forgetting something as far as sharing. I've shared it on my profiles. I feel like I'm forgetting something. I can't remember. I know
both of mine, so I think I'm
groups. Good. Groups. I'm gonna share it to some groups, and then we can get started.
Yeah, all right.
So
one for Nico, one for you, one for sampler. I don't know if they do the sampler in but I'll let me check it out. Sorry, still having a little conversation about dinner plans here.
Are y'all talking about candy or are y'all talking about something else?
No, we're talking about cauliflower wings.
Oh.
I have yet to find cauliflower repurposed into anything that I like yet.
I'll just get 3 of the regular.
Cauliflower rice is so good if it's done right.
Well, where does it right? Because I tried Chipotle's and I was not impressed.
I didn't even know Chipotle had it.
You tried Chipotle what?
Chipotle has cauliflower rice.
Cauliflower rice? Okay.
Didn't know that. There's some local places here. I don't know about like kind of big chain locations doing really well with like cauliflower.
Yeah. I mean, cauliflower always kind of tasted like spoiled broccoli to me. Like broccoli that got left out in the sun.
Listen, I wasn't a believer, but my wife made me a believer. She served me what was supposed to be a mock buffalo chicken sandwich, and it was cauliflower fried, and it chewed like chicken. And for all practical, application, it was the next best thing. So, what the bottom line is, if you prepare it yourself, then you can decide how you can decide what the flavor profile is, like how it's to be utilized, so on and so forth. But yeah, cauliflower has never been one of my favorites, but there are ways.
I've had buffalo cauliflower before, and all I tasted was the buffalo.
What were you trying to taste? The chicken?
I don't know.
Like you taste for the chicken when you eat the chicken equivalent?
I don't know. And that's a good point, I guess. I think you got me. But yeah, I don't know. Nia's not a fan of cauliflower, so therefore I'm not a fan of cauliflower.
Hey, you don't have to explain it to me, man.
Whatever the wife likes is what I like.
I don't cook nothing in this house, so I'm happy to get what I get.
Well, so I think, by the way, if you're watching, please share the video. Michael and I have shared it, but I'm sure I've forgotten some places I normally share it to because my mind is not here today. So please help me out and share the video so we can get our normal audience. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to introduce the greatest co-host that I could ask for, all the way on the other side.
Now,
I see it. Notice I get it right on the first try now.
I believe you. I'm just doing what my wife told me and getting these ordered so she can pick them up.
Oh, you need another minute, Michael?
No, I'm listening to you. I got you, man.
Okay. Well, cauliflower eating, co-host, drum playing, politics talking, one of my favorite people in the world, one of the best musicians in the world, Mr. Michael Bland, ladies and gentlemen.
And across the screen from me, Holy Ghost, organ playing, guitar shaking, living in the powder keg of the nation, Wisconsin. Y'all are number one. Not scared of white people, upset at white people. I don't know why. Ladies and gentlemen,
you know a lot of reasons why. So
I'll let you tell them why.
Right. Well, our regular viewers should probably know at this point. So
you upset with your people?
They're not my people, Michael.
Oh,
so I'm not claiming none of the Trump supporting, police
Oh,
calling.
no.
You know. Anyhow, let me introduce our guest. So the third part of our 3-part series, featuring some of the most amazing people that I've met, Black women politicians from around the country. Man, these women we've had in this segment have been just like, it's been mind-blowing what Black women are doing in official capacities to improve this country. It is just like, I made the status a few weeks ago that Black women are superheroes. And Representative Jasmine Crockett, I believe, did you start? We'll get into your whole story, but just as a brief bio, you started as a defense attorney, right?
Yes.
And
actually, yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay, well, she'll tell us more. And then now represents the 100th District of Texas. Am I correct?
Absolutely.
So she is a state representative and still an attorney. Ladies and gentlemen, did I get it right? Yes. Michael, you want to point to? We can, in our center.
Yeah.
Representative Jasmine Crockett.
Representative Jasmine Crockett.
Thank you.
So,
thanks for having me on, guys. I'm really excited for the conversation. And I'm excited that you guys even have this platform and this is how you choose to use it. So thanks so much for having me. And I look forward to getting into it.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background in terms of, like, first of all, why you became a defense attorney, and then how that took you into politics, and then anything else I missed along the way.
Yeah, so I actually started out doing class action defense work. So once I graduated law school, I went to a firm, and as I was doing that work, I was defending these big pharmaceutical companies against like class action lawsuits because women had cancer. And I was like, oh, this is not what I thought, life was going to be like. Like, this is not what I want to do. So I was like, do I even want to be a lawyer? And kind of in the midst of trying to figure out what I really wanted to do with my life, there was a public defender's office that was going to be brand new and opening in the town that I was in at the time, which is the big city of Texarkana. And so they were starting this office. And at the time, I was the only Black female lawyer in the town. And even still, I still have an office there that will probably be shutting down soon. But even with that office, I'm the only Black female lawyer in the town. And so I went in to interview because I thought at least I can help people if I become a public defender. And so I went in to interview, and I sat down with my boss and I said, listen, you don't have any other Black people on your staff. And I knew that because I knew how many Black lawyers were in the town. And so I was like, so I don't know anything about criminal law, but I'll figure that part out. But I'll always be able to walk in and have an instant rapport that none of the rest of you are going to have.
Right.
So that was my interview. Somehow I got the job. And so it was interesting because he actually called and offered me the job. And I was like, wait a minute now. I can't take that kind of pay cut. So we went back and forth a little bit.
I was going to say, public defenders don't make much, right?
No, not yeah. No, it just depends on where you are. But yeah, overall, not really. And I was in, private practice. So I was definitely in a situation to make a little bit more money. I was making a little bit more money. So I was like, oh, no, I can't do that. So we finally arrived at an agreement that was only going to be $10,000 less than what I was already making. And so, so that kind of started the downward trajectory of my life into politics. That specific position.
So, okay, I guess before we talk about the politics, so you were a public defender in Texarkana? Is that where you said?
Yeah, in Texarkana, Texas. very, very small office. I think there were a total of 5 of us that were in that office. And we actually handle cases in Texarkana as well as Red River County. So 2 small kind of East Texas counties. And after I got there, I started to think, man, I think they're screwing people's lives over. And so I had to dig into the code a lot because, once again, I was the person that had no experience, and I was committed to learning my craft. And I was able to discover some things that were going on that really shouldn't be going on. And if anybody would have taken 5 minutes to read the code, they would have realized that. So I did get frustrated. And so at the age of 28, I actually ran for district attorney in Bowie County, which is Texarkana. And or Texarkana is the largest city in Bowie County. Let me say that.
All right.
And so I knew nothing about politics. I did not want to be in politics, but I was very distraught by just the lack of equity overall and some of the injustices that I felt like were going on. And, a prosecutor is supposed to be a gatekeeper of sorts, right? Like, their job is to administer justice. And so a lot of times they're given a lot of latitude when it comes to the law, right? So, for instance, Breonna Taylor. We all know that the AG decided that he didn't even want to try to get certain things brought on those officers, right? So a prosecutor has that power. People do not realize that the head law enforcement agent in any county is the elected prosecutor, DA, whatever you want to call them, state attorney, depends on kind of where you live, what their name is. And so you can have 50 police departments that are turning in cases to you, but you're the one that decides whether or not someone really has to even face the music. You can decide to reject that case on the face of it, or you can take it to a grand jury and kind of manipulate it in certain ways. And so there's so much power, and it's interesting that I think as a country we're finally starting to understand the power that exists with a prosecutor. But at the age of 28, being so frustrated by, the fact that, like, one of the stories I always tell, it was a story that drove me to run for that office, and it was a story that drove me, and I shared on the campaign trail this time, was that in the state of Texas, we are one of, I want to say, only 5 states that still says at the age of 17, you're an adult, but only for criminal justice purposes. You can't vote at the age of 17. You can't buy liquor at the age of 17. And even this last legislative session, they upped the age from 18 to 21 to buy cigarettes. So now, I guess the argument was that they're just not mature enough to buy cigarettes at 18, but somehow they're mature enough to be held accountable and go to prison at the age of 17. So it's the only thing that you're an adult for. Because even still, your parents can get in trouble for truancy if you don't go to school. So it's just really backwards. It doesn't make any sense. So I had a 17-year-old that was charged with burglary of a building, which in the state of Texas is kind of simple. If you break into a building and you've got the intent to steal anything, doesn't matter what you're going to steal. If you've got the intent to steal anything, it's automatically a felony. And it's our lowest grade felony. Right. But when the law was written, I'm sure that it was really contemplated for those that break into a jewelry store with the intent of stealing jewelry and that kind of stuff or whatever. And it heightens your responsibility, because let's say you break into the jewelry store, the alarms go off, and so you run out and you don't end up getting anything. But instead of just charging you with like criminal trespass, a lot of times they would charge you, say, with burglary of a building. Well, I had a 17-year-old kid that broke into the concession stand at his high school, and his crime was stealing candy. And in this town, somehow someone before me had been appointed to represent him and had placed him on adult felony probation. And here it was that this kid had appointed counsel, so it was already determined that he was indigent, and probation doesn't stay open till 8 or 9 p.m. to be convenient. And, he didn't have a car, and he had a mom that was working a job where she was just trying to make the ends meet. And so she couldn't take off every time. It was time for him to go to CSPO. So ultimately, I got him on a probation revocation, not because he picked up a new offense, but because he didn't have money to pay fees and he wasn't able to show up to all of his probation appointments. Ultimately, my hands were tied and that kid was sent to prison. And I thought, how can this be justice when you've got a kid that, not to say that I condone anybody stealing anything, but the reality is that we're talking about a high school kid doing something that I would consider to be quite a high school thing. And so with, you know, our laws being what they are, in that, you know, he was screwed a couple of ways. He was screwed because he was in a small town where it's like you've got to go overboard to prove that you're tough on crime. And then, you know, the law itself is flawed because I can take that power away from the average prosecutor if it's just that at the age of 17, you're not considered an adult. So no matter which of the 254 counties you're in the state of Texas, if that's not the age of an adult, then you still can certify a kid and make them an adult. But under certification standards, a kid like that would never get certified. And I don't even think anybody would even try to go through the hassle of certifying. So, yeah.
How common is that across the country? Do you know? Is that unique to small towns or unique to Texas, or?
I would imagine that we have a bigger issue with this in small towns in general.
Sure.
I would say that, you know, because if you think about it, in our urban centers, they've got big stuff going on, you know, like it's, you know, we've got capital murders and ag assaults and ag robberies. We've got plenty of other things to keep people busy. And so I think that any county, honestly, where you have a pretty liberal prosecutor, they are the good filter that the law intended them to be. That discretion that they have, I think, is applied a little bit more evenly, and there's a little bit more common sense where, you know, you say, I get that the law says I can do this, but does it make sense for me to do this? Not really, right? And you maybe tell that kid that he needs to do some community service, or you maybe tell that kid that he needs to stay out of trouble for a certain amount of time, or if you really feel like that kid has some issues, then maybe you put that kid on some sort of misdemeanor probation or some diversion program, or, you know, something. But this idea that you just put him on felony probation and then he went to prison, and the reality is that when we begin to analyze the recidivism rates that exist in our various communities, when you do this over policing and over incarceration of poor people and Black and brown people, what you end up is you end up killing these communities, right? Because at the end of the day, they're going to come back, but now they come back and they've got a scarlet letter on their chest. So what opportunities are available for them? How many people were trying to give this kid a job if he walked in and said, I know it says burglary of a building, but I sold candy out of the concession stand in high school. Like, who's going to believe you? Like, the details don't show up on your rap sheet. All that shows up is what you were finally convicted of. And so it does a disservice for all of us, because, you know, no matter how hard that person tries, a lot of times it's so difficult to get employment that it's so much easier to just say, oh, well, never mind. I'm just going to go ahead and, you know, do this underworld stuff because they'll let me do it and I can make money and I can take care of my family. When you go to prison, there is no, well, I don't have a family anymore. No, you have a family and they've been missing you, and you still got to get back and fit back into whatever your role was. So having, you know, this over incarceration, lock everybody up attitude, it's not worked in this country at all. It's really caused more problems than it's, you know, helped, right? We need to incarcerate those that are a danger to our community. But instead, we almost do this kind of self-inflicted pain of incarcerating so many people to the extent that, you know, like in my house district, I don't have one Kroger, which I don't know if Kroger is very big for y'all, but Kroger is a big deal. I don't have one in my district, right? But when you look at the way that businesses analyze what communities they're going into, they're going to look at the crime rates, they're going to look at the income levels, they're going to look at all of that to determine whether or not that environment is one that makes sense for their for-profit model. And so, you know, it's just about really being smart on how we approach all these things, because it affects everything. It affects, you know, how our kids learn. When you've got a child who's missing their mom and their dad, or their mom or their dad because they're incarcerated, and they're incarcerated for something that really and truly just was not that big a deal, and we make a bigger deal out of it, or we don't provide the resources. So if they say are on drugs, right, and then we don't provide the resources, instead we just lock them up and put them in timeout for say a year or two, and then they come back into that environment with their child, you know, it presents even more issues. We look at children that are being trafficked. We look at children that just lack stability because they're getting an unstable parent. You know, it's one of the big debates when it comes to education. And, you know, in Texas, they're really big on this whole, well, we should just, Lord have mercy. Sorry about that, guys. In Texas, they're really big on this pay for performance. So basically, they want teachers to, you know, they kind of want to give you extra money if your children are performing at a certain level. And I personally take issue with a pay for performance because number one, it's going to make it more difficult for my schools to recruit really good teachers because they want to get paid. I mean, they're already not getting paid enough, right? So they want to get paid. So why not go to those schools that are already high performing, right? Because then you can guarantee that you're going to have some good money. In addition to that, usually the schools that are higher performing, the areas have a higher tax base, right? And so we're looking at overall like a more stable environment for those children. And so there's so many things that factor into the ability of these kids and the success of these kids that goes beyond just what's happened in the classroom. And so it's unfair to do that to teachers because there's so many things. And I think it's almost even a privileged perspective to look at these things and not fully recognize that there are children that have to deal with things that really a lot of children should not even have to deal with, right? Like they don't know if they're going to eat, or they don't necessarily know where they're going to sleep. So all those things are things that, you know, play a role for me. You know, when I'm thinking through legislation, and I think that my job as an incoming legislator is to educate those that don't realize this because they've never had to. My district is a majority minority district. It is 40% Black, 40% Hispanic, and 20% white. And so it's, you know, we've got some issues, and I need everybody on the floor to start to understand the issues that many of my minority constituents and my constituents that come from a bit of a lower socioeconomic background, the things that they're struggling to deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Yes.
I mean, I think one of the things that this makes so clear, and this is something that's kind of been a reoccurring theme, is like we hear as a left-wing talking point all the time how everything is interconnected: crime and poverty and education and jobs, and but I mean, someone who's worked in that area of politics or the justice system, it almost seems like it should be obvious how interconnected it is, because everything that you just explained, is just 1 degree of separation away from each other when you talk about the teacher merit pay versus the tax rate of that district versus the crime rate of that district versus, I mean, it sounds so abstract when we hear about it as a political talking point, but it's not really that abstract, is it?
No, not to me.
Nia just added birth control to that list and healthcare, I think, and yeah, I mean, so unless Michael has something, I want to put a pin in that real quick because later on I want you to talk about things that you either have done or can do as a legislator to fix that. But I want to hear a little bit more about, like, I mean, first of all, what even inspired you to go to law school? Because it sounds like when you started as a lawyer, you were already like pretty knowledgeable and pretty fired up about what you wanted to do.
No, I never wanted to be a lawyer. That's the funny part. I never ever wanted to be a lawyer. I actually initially wanted to be an anesthesiologist.
Ooh.
And then I probably got to my 3rd like biochem class or something, and I was like, oh yeah, this is terrible. And I decided not to, but I had tons of math and science. So I met with my advisor. My advisor was like, well, you can major in business. You'll probably do really well as a business major. And I was like, all right, I'll major in business then. And I did have a certain aptitude for business, kind of taking the numbers part of it and that kind of stuff. And so that's what I was doing. And I was going to become a CPA. And I was recruited to be on the mock trial team. I had participated in a musical, and the mock trial coach saw me and said, you've got to join mock trial. And I was like, why? I'm going to become a CPA, so why would I need to join the mock trial team? And he was like, are you kidding me? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a CPA. And he said, no, we need somebody with personality on our mock trial team, which we had a national award-winning team. And so I said, I'm not going to law school. This probably would be better for, say, someone who is going to law school. And so I did not join my junior year. And he came back my senior year and said, please join the team. And I did, and I became an All-American. And then he said, you should really just apply to law school. And I was like, I'm not going to law school. And he said, no, you should apply. And I got a full ride with a stipend to go. So for me, I was like, well, if I don't like it, I can quit. And the most I would have lost was like a year of my life. So that was my attitude. But I did give it a little bit more consideration overall because my junior year is also when I became the victim of a series of hate crimes. And it was myself along with about 8 or 9 other classmates. We became victims, and I didn't know what to do. And it was the first time that I truly felt like helpless in my life. And it was the first time that I truly felt like I was the victim of racism. And so the young lady that was assigned to try to help us out was actually a woman who worked for the Cochran firm. And she had graduated University of Houston Law School. So I thought it was pretty dope what she was doing. And the fact that there was somebody that I could turn to. And so initially, those are some of the things that were kind of on my mind when I finally decided to go ahead and apply to law school. So no, it was never just always in the cards at all. But, I can't imagine doing anything else. And I personally feel like everything happens for a reason. And that God has a divine plan that clearly I'm never privy to what's on the agenda. But I think that it works out nevertheless.
Amen.
Yeah. Another week running the organ, I guess.
You'll learn.
Yeah, I know. So was it, when you were dealing with the hate crime case, or that when you started becoming a lawyer and you were working for clients that you didn't particularly care for, that you really started to get an interest in like justice and politics and like the actual mechanics of how the world works versus how it's supposed to work? Like what opened your eyes, so to speak?
It was definitely being a public defender. Being a public defender was truly when I was like, oh God, is this what happens? Like that was really the eye-opening thing for me. It's just, you know, you heard about it for so long, people talking about, you know, people not being treated fairly and that kind of stuff. But if you've not really lived it, then, you know, that, like, I know that there are people that say, oh, certain people complain all the time, or they this or they that, or, you know, whatever. Like, they say all those things, and like, unless you've truly like lived that life, then you don't really know, right? And so I never really lived that life, but I was given kind of a front seat to it, and I think that for me, that's what really kind of changed the trajectory of kind of the work that I would do.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then you ran for DA. I'm assuming that you lost that race.
I did. I lost that race. I actually did an opposite situation. I was trying to read a text message. I won the early vote and I lost on election day. I raised $8,000 total, and I was 28. And at that time, the state of Texas had never elected an African American woman. They had just elected their first African American man, and that was in Dallas County. But none of that mattered to me. Like, it was just about kind of doing what's right, letting people know what was right, educating people. And I really did get people to believe. But I didn't know what I was doing at all. But I think that we did a great job considering.
Sure.
What was the biggest takeaway from that race, either for you or for the people that you were educating? She still with us? Did we lose her?
She looks like she may have frozen.
We might have frozen her.
Oh, there she goes. She moved a little bit.
Come back, Jasmine. We love you.
Come back, Jasmine.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me? Okay, perfect.
Yes,
we can.
I'm sorry. I couldn't hear you. What was my what?
Like, what was the biggest takeaway from that race? Like, either
I can't hear you.
I'm right here. Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear Mike?
I can hear you, Michael. I can hear Dan.
Dan's asking, what is the biggest takeaway you took from the experience?
My biggest takeaway was truly that you can motivate people to come to the polls if they really understand how it can and would affect their lives. That probably was definitely like the biggest takeaway that I had in that particular experience. And it didn't matter where you were, right? Sometimes people believe that, you know, you've got to be in a big city or whatever, but people just want real people that are going to talk to them, that are going to ask them what matters most, and who are actually going to fight for them. So right. I truly believed in the people through that race.
Yes.
Can you hear me now? Can she hear me?
Can you hear Dan?
I still can't hear Dan. No, I don't know why.
Get your microphone right, Dan. Now I can't hear you at all.
Wait, did I?
Now?
Can you hear me, Michael?
Yes, I can hear you.
Michael can hear me.
She can't even hear you telling her, Michael can hear me.
I don't know.
Right, exactly. I can hear Michael.
Well, then I guess I have to commandeer the situation.
Go right ahead, Michael.
All right, well, I need to go back because what I need to know is I have, like most thinking people, I'm very skeptical of the judicial system, and and I'm as a Black person uber aware of the white supremacist power structure, and And so I hear you describing the situation earlier in the conversation, and I think to myself, why is there such an overreach? Like, what is the reason they need to hunt us down in this within the structure of the law? Like, why design the law to be so focused on, like, it's just that same thing I guess can be said about over policing anything. We're a target. We got targets on our backs all the time. And I remember at one of the peaks of the present administration, I think it probably was right when they discovered that they were keeping. I think we lost Jasmine? Jasmine?
Nope, I'm here.
You there? Okay.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Now I can see you too.
I'm here.
What about me? Can you have me back?
I can hear you.
Okay. I'm still gonna let Michael do it though.
That's right. I'm in the middle of my question.
But I hear you. Why you're skeptical? I got it. And you want to know, like, why is that way?
Well, somebody said.
Okay, so why can't I hear Michael now?
Oh boy. Dan?
I can only have one of you at a time.
Oops, wrong one. Let's try. What about now?
Michael, can I hear you?
Can you?
I can.
Okay, good.
Right. Let me finish my point. You interrupted me before my mic goes out again.
The white supremacist power structure does not want you.
They don't like what I start talking about.
We're trying to keep you down, Michael.
Power structure trying to cut my feed. We're not having it. Shortly, just somebody said about the Trump administration when the whole thing started happening, when the kids were separated from their families and from their parents and put in the cages, that cruelty is the point. They were like, how cruel? How can they be so cruel? And somebody said, cruelty is the point. That it's like they try to make it so bad on people of color, immigrants, what have you. And what is the end game? Do you have an opinion? Are you allowed to comment as a person in your position?
Oh yeah, I'm allowed to comment.
Huh?
I'm allowed to comment. I ain't got no boss, except for the good people at House District 100, which I fully anticipate is going to be voting against Trump. That's exactly what it is, though. I mean, it's, when we start talking about the systemic issues that have existed, it's always been about power. It's always been about holding those that are quote unquote in the minority down. And the reality is that this country is on track to become majority minority soon, right? And so how do you hold on to your power? You make sure that you do things like you screw over the black president as he's trying to do what he's constitutionally allowed to do when he's trying to appoint federal judges and he's trying to appoint a Supreme Court justice. You stall that system out and you wait, and then you will let Trump do something. You let Trump do an appointment, and then y'all twist some arms and y'all get another Supreme Court justice to go ahead and retire. And then when you have another that dies, you rush that appointment through. That changes the spectrum of everything. They could go back and say slavery is okay. It really changes everything. And so it's power. And the problem that I have is that candidates don't spend enough time truly empowering the people to understand the power that they have. There's more time that's put into convincing people that they don't have power than there is in putting in the information to the people that they do have the power. And explaining, it's like we have to go back to civics 101, seemingly on a lot of these things and explain like, hey guys, this is what this group does. This is what that group does. This is why this matters. This is where the power is. Everybody thinks that all the power lies in, say, a state court judge. Not really. No. There's some good power that they have, but even when we want to complain about different sentences and things like that are being handed down, you can't really complain about them because half the time the judge is not doing anything more than either deciding whether or not they're going to accept a plea deal that's been offered or not. That's all they're really doing.
Sure.
They're not actually determining. I mean, unless you go to a judge and you say, hey, I want you to do the sentencing. Half the time, the judge isn't the one that's making those decisions anyway. And the judge, at the end of the day, has to follow whatever laws are written. The power exists in those who write the law. And guess who doesn't have term limits? The people that write the laws. Like, that is where the ultimate power really exists.
The fix is in.
Yeah.
All right. I got one other thing I want to pass through you before Dan gets his power back.
Don't make this about the white man, Michael.
Hey, why not? Isn't it?
Not this show. Everything else, maybe, but not this show.
All right. One other thing. We had the irrefutable Sade Smith on some weeks ago, and what she said. I'm losing my train of thought. Let me think about this.
While he thinks about it. Oh, go ahead.
No, I got it. Can you still hear me, Jasmine?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
What she said was, if true justice existed, well, I'm paraphrasing, in any way, shape, or form, it wouldn't and shouldn't matter who's sitting, above the court. It shouldn't. Whoever the judge is, the judge shouldn't make no never mind. If there was real justice available to us as citizens. Do you have an opinion about that? Do you?
It just depends on what judges we're talking about. Federal judges, especially, when people are saying, oh, I don't want to vote for either the Democrats nor the Republicans when it comes to voting for president, and neither one of them have done anything for black people. They ain't gonna do nothing for black people, blah, 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 blah. I feel like I've heard it all. But here's the reality for all the people that have been out marching because of George Floyd or whatever the reasons were that they were marching for injustices going on in this country. The reality is that on a federal level, that's where our president plays a huge role, because they appoint our federal judges. When they go and they kill one of us, I file those cases in federal court. So if I'm filing in a court and I've got a judge that truly just doesn't believe Black Lives Matter, it's easy enough for them to kick those cases out, because the law really is tough. I mean, even when you look at Dallas County specifically, Dallas County, in my district, HD 100, Botham Jean lived, died, and worshipped. He was killed by a Dallas police officer. Man. That officer did get convicted of murder, did get charged with murder, and she got 10 years in prison, okay? The city of Dallas was released from the civil rights litigation. Now, mind you, Botham was sitting at home, minding his business, eating ice cream. And you have a system that says it's okay that a Dallas police officer comes in your home and kills you. But, what do you guys care? We finally put somebody in prison, right? Instead of, really there being kind of every effort to make Botham's family whole. And so when you have, it's the federal judges that kick that out before it ever gets to a jury. You don't even get that far, right? Uh-huh. And let's say the judge didn't kick it out. Let's say that didn't happen. You're still faced with the circumstance of the appellate court. And the Fifth Circuit is awful. God, awful. Mm-hmm. I mean, and so then you talk about, well, let's say you have a win or loss. Who knows? You end up somewhere on the Fifth Circuit. But let's say you win on the Fifth Circuit. They appeal it up to the Supreme Court. Now, have you seen our Supreme Court lately? Like, is that who you really want to rely upon? Like, that's not a good look. So, we don't have a Thurgood Marshall on this Supreme Court. And it's almost like we are going back into a time where, we are currently in a modern day civil rights movement. And at least back then we had Thurgood. We don't have that anymore. Like, we may be in a worse position. And when it comes to any judge that is on any appellate level, really anywhere, they begin to shape and interpret the law. So that's their job, is to interpret the law, right? Like, people decide what they can do constitutionally because the Supreme Court says so, right? So even when you look at the situation with the Affordable Care Act, when you look at the Affordable Care Act and determining whether or not that was a constitutional thing, that Supreme Court upheld it as constitutional. Now we're shifting the thought process of those on the court, and instead of them saying, all right, this has already been decided, we're not going to relitigate this, they're going to do everything that they can to relitigate. So, you know, we've had some opinions come out, like, you know, about hair, like, oh, you can't wear dreads, that it's okay to fire somebody for having, you know, natural hair, like all that kind of nonsense, right? Like, so it does matter. It does matter how those judges see the world when it comes to interpreting. I think on a trial level, on a trial state level, it's not as big a deal, but our appellate courts for sure. And I promise you, when it comes to voting on the appellate level, most people don't know who their trial court judges are when they're voting. Voting on the appellate level, I know they have no idea who these people are, right? Even when we look at the most recent Supreme Court nominee, or the most recent Supreme Court justice, she hadn't been a judge until 2017. She became a judge 3 years ago, and now she's a Supreme Court justice. She's never tried a case. I can't tell you how many cases I've tried. Not because I've not tried any, but because I've tried just that many, right? But this is somebody who has a lifetime appointment to the highest court in the land.
And minimal experience. Yeah.
And what?
Minimal experience.
Correct. Like, it's privilege again. So
yeah, by the way, you can go, as far over into it. You don't have to,
No, I think everybody knows exactly what I'm saying when I'm saying it's a privilege.
Saying, after our first show, Dan's wife said to him, "Oh, so that's your show ain't gonna be for white people, huh?" So
but it should be. Like, this is bringing out information that, like, these are disparities that sometimes white people have not been cognizant of because it's not been part of their experience. And I think that we as Black people are charged with an obligation of educating those around us about our experiences in an intelligible way, not just they racist, or they, you know what I mean? Like, break it down, like, show the disparities, right? Like, because the reality is that I fought tooth and nail for a state house position where I'll get paid $600 a month in the state of Texas, right? That's another systemic issue that we have, clearly. But I'll get $600 a month for my position. I've been licensed to practice for the last 14 years. I can't tell you how many cases I've tried, both criminal and civil, in state courts in multiple states. I'm licensed in multiple states, and I've tried cases in federal courts as well. Ain't nobody called me and asked me if I was looking for a Supreme Court nomination. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not to say that I'm the most experienced person. I'm not saying that, but I can guarantee you, if and when we finally get a Black woman, that Black woman will be 500 times more qualified than our most recent Supreme Court justice.
Well, yes, absolutely. Chris Rock said it. Said the Black man has to fly to what the white man can walk to.
Right. Even when you look at our presidents, right? When you look at 44 and 45, there's a stark difference. A completely, like, just ridiculous stark difference. And it all comes down to, it's sad because we grow up, most of us as Black folk grow up being told you will always have to be better than your white counterpart.
Absolutely.
It's never been ingrained in me that I could do the same. It's always been ingrained in me that I had to do more just to get to the same level. And so, you know, we're consistently seeing that be played out with no apologies whatsoever in this country right now. So, you know, I hope that we're rounding the corner, but, you know, by appointing this
Please
justice,
don't use that phrase. Rounding the corner. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, but I'm being optimistic and somewhat realistic at the same time.
Okay.
Only in the sense that I do think that there's been a huge awakening in this country. You know, we have record turnout in the midst of a daggone global pandemic, right? Like, it went from, do we think people are going to vote? You know, what can we do to get them to the polls? Are they going to be scared? These people are risking their lives because they see how serious it is to really have a say-so in those that are shaping our government, and how literally politics is life. That it is life. There are lives that have now been lost because of a lack of leadership on the national level, a lack of leadership depending on where you are on a state level, and sometimes on a county or city level. People are finally getting probably the hardest civics lessons that they never even thought they wanted, because now they finally understand what it means to have a mayor. Now they understand that it's not just about a photo op and coming out and giving out turkeys at Thanksgiving, but that they really have a job to do, and there's leadership that we need. When 45, I'll say, when 45 refused to step up.
Yeah, we call him he who shall not be named, or Voldemort, on this show.
He who shall not be named.
Yeah, no, I don't give him any airtime.
Wow.
So, so he literally decided that he was not going to lead, even in the midst of having all of the rules in a playbook in front of him. He decided he not only did not want to follow that, but he also did not want to lead in any capacity, you know, as far as like giving guidance to the governors, which is kind of what normally would happen. And so governors started kind of acting on their own to do certain stuff. And so, you know, in the state of Texas, our governor decided not to do anything either. And so it was my county judge who actually acted as the leader in the state of Texas. Our county judge is the one that started doing shutdowns. He's the one that started to tell people they needed to wear masks. He's the one that started to really do these orders. And once he did that, then Harris County, which obviously Harris County has Houston, it's the largest county in in the state of Texas. And so then Harris County followed his lead. And then other large counties started to follow his lead. And then at that point in time, the governor kind of was a little jealous, I guess. And so our governor then says, oh, okay, well, I guess I want to do something. And he really just did everything that he could to counteract what was already being done, because he wanted to say that he was the one that was the leader. But, you know, he's only able to act to a certain extent because our president has failed to act, right? So it's quite frustrating. And when people elect you, I think now they finally understand that literally you can cost their family members their lives.
It's serious.
Yeah.
It's serious.
Have you heard at all about the clusterfuck that's going on here in Wisconsin between the Democratic governor and the Republican Assembly and Supreme Court as far as, the pandemic and voting rights, for that matter? Has that news made its way?
You guys aren't the ones with the vote by mail where they don't want to.
Yes,
extend.
That's true. Yes.
Okay.
But I was going to get into that later, but also, I mean, every single stay-at-home order, every single mask mandate, every single thing that our governor, who's done a pretty responsible job of handling the pandemic, everything that he has done to try to save lives in Wisconsin, the Republicans have sued and gotten it, knocked down, just to limit his power. Like, there's no other benefit. Like, it's just to be assholes, essentially.
Yeah. No, it gets frustrating because the mantra of the Republican Party is small government, minimal intrusion, all that good stuff. And so we see that they only believe that so long as those that are below them agree with them.
That's right.
Otherwise, they want all the control. And so it's maddening, you know, that it's just so much hypocrisy that it's like, I just really wonder how people can belong to a party that is going to shift just depending on how the wind blows, right? I don't think that there is a perfect party. I don't think that there's a perfect person. I don't think that there's a perfect candidate. I don't think that perfection is kind of one of those realistic things that any of us should be looking for in life, kind of in general, right? But the reality is that if you are electing people that you cannot trust to be honest with you, then, you know, is that really somebody that you really want to employ? I mean, the reality is that we are public servants. We work for the people. And I feel as if so often people get away from who their bosses are, right? Like, I mean, in the real world, if you were in a corporation and you were employing someone who was consistently caught lying to you, and you're paying their bills, you're the one writing their check, chances are you would finally say, listen, I can't deal with this. This is not what I employed you for. I can't trust the job that you're doing for me because you can't be honest with me about anything. And that's what we're dealing with in this country. It's just so many electeds that are dishonest and so many people that are just shrugging off the dishonesty and making it okay. And it's just mind-boggling to me.
Are you still driving?
I am, because I got turned around. But that's okay. I'm almost to my destination. That's all right.
I'm going to read Mark's question aloud to you because I thought it was a good question. I just wanted to make sure that you hadn't had a chance to read it yourself. Do you think that it would be wise for Biden, if elected, to add 2 or maybe even 4 judges to the Supreme Court of the United States?
Yes. Okay. I'm tired of Democrats kind of being the wussies, so to speak. Like, we're always so nice, right? The reality is that if there is any backlash for you know, what's been done, they deserved it. And the reality is that we always take all these hits and that's it, and we sit there and we end up getting bullied. And the reality is that, like, I mean, it's even like the people that have an issue with the Electoral College. Hillary won the majority. In fact, I mean, so many there. She's not the only one, right?
Al Gore.
But they're taking advantage. Correct. They're taking advantage of the systems, and then when they take advantage of the systems, they're still not doing right by people. They're only doing right by themselves. Mm-hmm. Like, so I'm like, honestly, we need to do right by our people, and doing right by our people is stacking the court, because they played President Barack Obama, and they did a lot of maneuvering to, I mean, when is the last time we had a justice retire? Like, they freaking, like, I mean, it's crazy to me. They stole Merrick's seat. They stole that seat.
Yeah.
And honestly, as far as I'm concerned, they really did steal this last seat as well. I honestly think that really both of these seats, Obama should have had Merrick's seat, and Biden should have had this last seat. And, you know, who knows if there would have been a third seat, but for this random resignation, that doesn't happen. I mean, these people die in these seats. That's what these, I mean, they're lifetime appointments, and they be there for life, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, I think that it's time to show them that if y'all are gonna continue to be less than diplomatic and less than civil in how we govern, then we're going to hit back. We're not going to keep taking these hits. I mean, you're talking about the Supreme Court. We've not gotten onto how many of the the trial court and the appellate court seats they stole. I mean, that's all they've been doing is stealing. So I'm like, if we get a couple of Supreme Court justices, so be it. So I absolutely believe that he should add justices to the court.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you think it'll happen?
We're going to be dealing with. I do. I think he just doesn't want to say it. I do. I think he'll do it. He's obviously going to need the numbers. So if he starts touting off, I'm going to do this and that, and we don't have that, we should have the House, but we really need to get the Senate as well.
Go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
No. So but I think he will. I think that he doesn't want to. He doesn't know how that issue is polling. He doesn't want to really rock the boat. There's definitely some Republicans that are supporting him right now. So going out there and saying that he's going to do something like that maybe seems a little leftist. I don't think that he wants to do that. And I think it makes perfect sense for him not to say that. But I think that he will.
I just keep going back to what you said about the Democrats being the wusses. Like that's a player move to, like, you know, I just don't see the Democrats as having the balls to do that.
Well, can I kick it and say that, you know, the moral high ground is overrated? That's what I think. You know, moral high ground might make you feel good, but what does it actually accomplish in the process?
Listen, it's a delicate balance. I'll be perfectly honest with you guys. I mean, I'll honestly say that I have no love whatsoever for my current predecessor at all. Like 0 ounces of love or like at this point. And it's not because I can't get along with people, and clearly I beat her, so it is what it is, right? But I personally take issue with, I mean, I had a hard time because my opponent made up lies about me in desperation to win. And boy, oh boy, I mean, what I do for a living is I fight, right? Like I fight for people. They can't fight for themselves. Like I fight. I'm a fighter. And by this point in the campaign, we had gotten to the point that we had some really good, solid, like, supporters. We always struggled with money. My opponent was bought and paid for. Like, she was gonna be doing some stuff for some people, and that was kind of that. And so they had put a little over probably right at $500,000 into her. And so I had somebody that was willing to pay for me to pull out her actual dirt, like loads of like real factual dirt.
Like you had the receipt.
I had all the receipts. I had all the receipts. I had the mugshots. I had it all. Okay.
Woo!
I personally talked to my daddy, who's a preacher. I prayed about it, and I didn't do it because, and honestly, I think she, with her lies, I think she was able to dig on me a little bit. I do. At the end of the day, you know, in my race, they tried to steal it. They did everything they could. So I was like, I probably did the right thing by just truly praying about it, because I didn't want people to become disengaged and annoyed because I was painting our campaign as something completely different than what they were used to. And so I didn't want to do politics as usual. I didn't want to go into I didn't want to do that. I needed my people to stay engaged and excited and hyped, right? So I just ignored the BS and, you know, we moved on. And about the stealing part, I hate to sound like 45, but I got some good new laws for when she tries to run for office again, that we're going to put in place, because sadly enough, when we looked at, so I work really hard. I wasn't given the seat. I fought for the seat. Right. And so I was at the polls on election day, and here it is, 7:00. You know, those returns that, you know, you're going to get your first numbers, right? So I'm at the polls, and the numbers are gonna come up, and so I'm starting to pick up my signs at the polling location so that I can meet up with the team. And I pull my phone out and I look, and the early returns had me down by 700 votes. And it, I don't even think it was like 6,000. It was maybe 6,000 or a little less, but I was down by like 10 points. I was down something crazy, right? And this is all of vote by mail, and it's all of early voting. So I'm like, so I hit the team. I said, yo, I love y'all. I thank y'all. We fought for it. At least we know we did it our way. We don't have to hold our heads in shame, nothing, because we fought for it and we did it the right way. My team is like, oh, no, it's not over, right? Like, and I'm like, oh, they refuse to accept numbers and reality, right? But I'm gonna let them be where they are, okay? Like, I was like, there's no way, because I had people out the entire day at all the different polling locations. I'm like, even if we got like really good like numbers today, you don't make up that kind of deficit. Like, trends tend to hold, right? So I'm like, the trend is gonna hold. Like, we probably, we may tighten up a little bit, but that's a lot of points. Like, you don't come back from that kind of like deficit. Like, you don't. And so, not in one day. And we're talking about a runoff election during the summer in a pandemic. I was like, it's not gonna happen. And so I go to the house, and my godparents have come in, and my godmoms made all this good food and all kinds of stuff. So we're I'm like, well, give me a drink. Yeah. And give me some food. She made ribs and everything. So I'm like, I'm like, I'm just happy it's over, because it was so draining and took so much of my life. And so I was like, it's fine, because what God has for me, it is for me. And it wasn't my time. Like, that was my attitude. So they like, oh man, you just, now you within 500 votes. I'm like, y'all, I'm just like, no, like, is it? Yeah,
let it go. I know let it
y'all.
Go.
Yeah, I'm like, I know y'all want to hold out hope. Man, people started going to sleep. People, like, okay, I'm going to sleep, and you fought the good fight. So I'm like, okay, thank you. People going to sleep. So my team is still down at elections, because you got to watch everything. You got to watch everybody, okay? And so they're down there. It keeps tightening. It tightened within like 150 votes or something. I was like, now wait a minute now. Wait a minute now. We may be within striking distance now. Don't want to get too excited. But I was like, what boxes are still out? Like, where these votes coming from? Like, whose votes haven't we counted? And so it got down to the point that maybe it was like 100 votes ahead or something that she was over me or whatever. It was something like that. And one of the boxes was in this far place, because you can vote anywhere you want to in Dallas County on election day. It was a very far, far away place, like almost not in Dallas County. So I was like, we don't have no votes coming out of there. The other box was South Dallas on Martin Luther King. I say, y'all, we may have a winner. Because South Dallas, MLK, that was always solidly like in my corner. Like, they always backed me as a civil rights lawyer, as a criminal defense attorney. Like, I was their girl, right? Sure enough, South Dallas put me over the top. And when I then looked, I was like, dude, like, when I actually kind of looked at the numbers, my opponent got 70% of the vote by mail. So when people voted at home or wherever they voted from, they chose her 70% of the time. When people walked in and nobody was helping them, they chose me 60% of the time. And so she was able to build like this crazy lead with this vote by mail. And I got some calls about some of the people that it helped her with her vote by mail. And so there were some. So I said, you know what? I got some ideas on how we can make it secure, but also increase the access to vote by mail. But we gotta tighten this up. And our race was the only race that was not on trend. Every other race in the county trended the exact same way from early vote to final. Maybe a 1 or 2 point difference, except for ours. So
this was a primary, or this was the general?
This was a primary. Our
Okay.
general is going on, but I don't have an opponent. It's a safe Democratic seat. There's never ever been a Republican to even run.
Okay.
So it's a safe Democratic seat.
So yeah, so this was another Democrat doing you dirty.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just thought it was important to clarify that because, yeah.
No, I mean, listen, there are players in the game that do what they do on all sides. So I don't make this a partisan issue. Exactly. And, you know, when you invest $500,000, you try to make sure that investment pays off. Like you not try to just throw it out there, right? Mm-hmm. So you know, it was such a big win for the people, though. Like, because with all of the things that people hate about politics, with all the kind of money just being thrown on, and with all of the facade as if this person really brought something to the table versus it being more so a person who had been politically engineering a career, so therefore they were able to have certain people back them, not because they had done something so wonderful, but it was that this is how politics work. Like, the people that don't understand, like, the background and the behind the scenes, right? Mm-hmm. So it was great for the people to actually choose, because so often people say we've got to do campaign finance reform, because if we don't, it makes it so hard for the people to actually choose who our leaders are going to be, and, you know, all that kind of stuff, right? So it was definitely it was a win for the people, and I plan to do everything that I can to engineer more wins for the actual people versus kind of the political puppets.
Yeah.
So I got two things real quick. So
okay, because I'm gonna have to run, but
oh, okay.
I'm gonna jump out the car. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, one of them wasn't quick, I guess. Then I should say. But one of them was, so you said that the actual position only pays, you said $600 a month.
Yeah.
But they spent $50 million to win that position. We lost her.
Did we lose you?
We lost her.
Jasmine?
We can't hear you.
Representative Crockett?
Okay, we got you. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes. So
okay, let's do
that. Don't let the right representative get mugged. You need to pay attention to where she's going.
Right. We just lost her again.
Yeah, she got to look out for muggers, haters, and whatnot.
Man, things get down like that in South Dallas, apparently.
They get down.
So one of the things that we can talk about real quick, I want to see if you heard about it while we're waiting for her to come back. Is you heard about the Supreme Court ruling for voting by mail for Wisconsin that I think came back?
Trying to say if it's they won't count them. Yeah. What's the real story now?
So that's pretty much it. So the actual Supreme Court, they took it all the way to the Supreme Court that any ballots. Wait, I think she's coming back. Okay.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry. It's probably because I disconnected my car.
Okay. So
Wait, we were talking about me not being paid really for my job.
Right. but you said that your opponent spent $50 million on her race. So I just wanted you to kind of clarify, like, why is it worth spending so much money on a position that pays so little? Like, it's not about what you make from the position, obviously.
No, it's literally about the power that exists. So there were people that were really invested in getting that seat to make sure that legislation that they want passed gets done.
Yeah.
You know, it's one of the systemic issues that I was talking about, because how many everyday voices are you getting in the state legislature when it's only $600 a month? Like, how many people can actually afford to say, oh yeah, I'll sign up for that job? You don't get people to leave their homes and go to Austin for $600.
No, there got to be some.
Can't.
There's some
They really
payola involved somewhere.
Yeah. So when you're talking about like who writes the laws, I mean, you're missing the real everyday person's voice.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's going on. Like you're missing that. So, you know, it's like I said. I mean, she had really, really, really big donors, and it's kind of like when people start talking about where people are getting money from and that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And how the influence is. I mean, I had pointed out that like her top donor had given her like 50,000. That was from one donor, 50 grand.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, so have y'all ever seen this person? Do y'all know who he is? Because chances are he wasn't doing 50,000 out of the goodness of his heart alone, right?
Right.
Versus kind of those small money donors. And so, you know, that's what it was. But, you know, you live and you learn. And honestly, there's nothing I would have changed about the way that we ran our campaign. And there's so many people that I do want to help, people that I am helping, because I truly believe that we really are going to be able to turn the corner and no, round the corner. Sorry, round the corner, and return, you know, the people's house to the people, right? Like, or the people's courts to the people. I just can't really continue to function this way if I don't believe that, and I really do believe that it is going to be possible if we all work together and we're all engaged. And I think right now we're really engaged. I just hope that we stay engaged. Because one of the things that I always say when I go out to the protest is that we can't let this just be a moment. We've got to decide that it's going to be a movement. And if it's going to be a movement, then we got to keep going. We can't just stop at marching in the streets. We've got to march and make sure that we're holding people accountable. I tell people all the time, don't elect me and then fall asleep at the wheel. So often we're good at that. We keep electing the same people over and over and over without asking, what have you done for me lately? Are you still fighting for me? A lot of times the answer is no, right? But we don't get to, we don't ask those questions. We don't show up to the meetings. We don't show up to the legislature. We don't do these things. And that's why we're like, well, I like that person when they campaign, but I don't understand why we're still losing, you know? So it's kind of where we are. But I'm going to have to run in now to do this other show. I'm sorry, guys.
That's all right.
Okay,
enjoyed you.
Give us the like as quick as you can, because I know when I asked you what you wanted to talk about tonight, you wanted to talk about voting and voter suppression, and we haven't even got there yet. So give us like the 30-second pitch.
Go vote. That was less than 30 seconds. No, you know, the reality is, like I said, it's connected to everything in life. Like voting is life. Like elections are life. And so if we're really going to start to get to a point where you have, say, a legislature in Texas that believes in the expansion of Medicare, you've got to go out and vote, right? We've got, you know, I think Texas leads in uninsured people in the entire country. And yet and still we have a legislature that just wouldn't take the money that was sitting there. But now we're going into a difficult budget session. So you can't just vote and decide you're going to vote for president. You've got to vote all the way down the ballot. You need to research your people. I'm not asking you to do a background check, but a quick Google will reveal whether or not that person has ever been involved in the community, or if they just finally showed up because they're not running for office. A quick Google will tell you, you know, some crazy stuff. Like I saw some people that truly believe Black Lives Matter, that they're voting for a black guy that's a Republican who's like back the blue, and all those protesters ain't nothing but looters. Like just Google, Google, and you'll find out, you know, who some of these people are, and you won't be hoodwinked. And so I just want to make sure that we all get out and vote. You know, they would not do so much to suppress the vote if our vote didn't count. So let that rhetoric not even cross your mind. Not to mention, I am now the poster child for every single vote counts, because I won by 90 votes. It was a hard fought fight, but literally I won on election day. Literally won on election day. I was down and out by all accounts. In fact, there were people that had called that race for my opponent at 7 o'clock because nobody comes back from being down by 10 points. So don't let anybody ever tell you that your vote doesn't count. That's just a way of them trying to continue to suppress your vote.
Yes.
There's a reason we've got litigation all over the country. There's a reason that Trump wanted to get his Supreme Court nominee done and in before he decided to find some kind of stimulus relief for those of you in this country that are suffering. Oh, thank you. There's a reason for all of that. So
Absolutely.
Don't be fooled. Don't be hoodwinked. Go vote. And it's not really that complicated. Just go vote for the person that seemingly has some kind of sense, and you'll be okay.
Can you come back later and tell people where they can follow you on social media and where they can buy your mask? Because we've had people in the comments asking they want a Jasmine mask like you're wearing.
I wasn't even modeling. That's so funny.
So
yeah, everything is just Jasmine for 100. So JASMINEFOR and then 100, including our website. So shoot us a message or something because we do have plenty of masks as well.
You have any quick questions for Michael or myself?
No, just keep up the good work, guys. I
Thank
love
you
it.
so much.
Like,
We
you guys are
appreciate
doing such great work.
Jasmine Crockett. Thank you so much for blessing the show.
I really hope we'll get to talk.
Thank you for having me and dealing with my crazy schedule today.
Yeah, we really appreciate you coming. And obviously, you got a lot going on before Election Day, and we hope we get to talk to you again soon.
Yes. I'd love it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Take care of yourself.
Bye.
All right.
So, yeah, I wanted to ask you something too, but before that, yeah, we were talking about what's going on in Wisconsin here. So did that make Minnesota at all news? Did that?
My wife told me a little earlier on in the evening about, did you hear about Wisconsin? That was the first I'd heard of it. I had a very strange day. I had a long talk with young Rye just about like songwriting and using yourself as a resource and whatnot. So we got way off into the ether, but I hadn't paid much attention to the news cycle today, which is normally all right for me. It's a good day if I haven't.
Yeah, I understand that. No, but I wanted to make sure I mentioned it because for the Wisconsin people that are listening or watching,
sure.
If you were planning on voting by mail, you better mail that ballot ASAP because the previous law was if it had to be postmarked by Election Day. Now they're saying it has to be received and counted by the eve of Election Day or it doesn't count. So if I was voting by mail, thank God I already voted. If I put mine in the mail tomorrow and it got lost in the mail and didn't arrive till after Election Day, and we already know they're trying to fuck with the postal system explicitly for that reason.
Yeah, they told you. They out and out said.
Yeah,
we are trying to mess with it.
The other thing I was going to ask you too, kind of off topic, but there's been a post circulating Facebook about that's like an updated list for 2020 of sundown towns in the U.S. and they put Minneapolis on the top of that list.
Okay. I
wanted to just see if you'd heard about that and how you felt about that.
I didn't know about that.
I don't know that it's legitimate. It's been circulating social media. I was a little surprised. Some of them on the list made sense to me, and some of them I'm like, really? And Minneapolis was the biggest question mark for me. I was surprised to see it. I was wondering maybe if it was because of the protests or because of the curfews or because of.
I could see it. Oh, Lundholm was saying that's clickbait.
Well, the thing that I saw wasn't an article. It was literally like
a list.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Lundholm, you want to get on and tell us what you know about it?
Yeah. Chris, you want me to send you a link? You want to come and join us?
Yeah, get him on.
Hey, I'm always down to talk to Chris. Let me.
Yeah, we got a solid 30 minutes left to go. Get Lundholm in here. Let's mix it up.
Absolutely. I'm sending him the link now.
Yeah.
If he wants to jump on, let me. Look who we got. Look who we got.
Watch out. Oh, Lord have mercy.
So, I'm going to go pee real quick so y'all can get acquainted.
Yeah, let me get acquainted with Maya Winston. Can you unmute your microphone, please, sweetheart?
Yes, sir. Anything for Michael Bland. Hi, Michael Bland. How are you?
Don't get me in trouble now.
Listen, I'm respectful.
How are you doing this evening?
I'm living the dream. How are you?
I'm doing all right.
I'm all right.
Did you have something particular that you wanted to add? Have you been watching?
I have been watching. No, I always watch, even if I'm on the go.
Right.
I'm here, even when I'm not here.
I believe you right there. Yeah, of course. The spirit is
I was watching. I was enjoying Representative Crockett's stories and just her drive and how she got where she is and why. Because that's important. Just even that last point that she made about not being paid anything, essentially.
Yeah.
Do the job, but knowing the importance of doing the job.
Right.
So yeah, I was watching.
Yeah. So money isn't everything.
You sure?
Well, I sure like to
money is an important tool. Money is an important tool.
You're absolutely right.
But it's admirable. And deserves support for someone to acknowledge that, hey, I essentially get paid nothing to do this, but I'm in the trenches for you all because I see that it's a need. And so if I don't represent, or if I don't stand up to represent you and represent you well, as opposed to being the pawn of donors versus the voice of the people, then, I really can't complain. Because if I had the opportunity to affect change and I didn't do it, then,
right,
I'm no better than others.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Yes.
Civil service is civil service.
It is. It is. And it's becoming more and more perilous by the day, apparently.
Yeah, they don't like it when you start messing with the the status quo. They don't like people to be motivated and educating themselves and moving things along in favor of those who've been disenfranchised and cast aside. Correct. Considered a drain on the program.
There was something I wanted to mention, not related to that, but wanted to share with the Music Politics audience that, and Dan knows Diva Moore from Your Glasses group, darling Diva Moore. And Jerry is here too. And so Diva hosts every year. She hosts a Panty Drive. She's out of Denver. She calls it the Mile High Panty Drive. And what it's about is getting new underwear to donate to homeless shelters. Because homeless women, you think about, the basic necessities, and that being, one of the number one things that women request in shelters.
I'll bet.
Through the month of October, she does a drive, and Sylvia Goss, myself, and Farrah Van, some fabulous friends of mine, we're doing a DFW version, but you don't have to be in DFW if you would like to contribute. We will be donating everything collected to local shelters here, but we have an Amazon wish list. So if people want to donate a pack of underwear, hi Chris.
Hello, y'all.
Underwear or feminine hygiene products, I can put the link in, Dan, if you want to post it for anyone who would be interested in donating. We greatly appreciate it. No pressure, but just wanted to share that information.
Fantastic. I don't have any bloomers that I could donate, but
maybe some overalls, Michael.
Right. So, I don't have any high-waisted. Yeah.
Ooh, we can auction off a famous pair of Michael's overalls for charity.
Oh.
So for people who don't know, when I make the joke, Michael's trademark after the hats and the muumuus left became always wearing overalls when he plays drums, and it's one of my. I don't want to say it's one of my favorite things about him because I love everything about Michael, but it's one thing that amuses me about Michael is that he only drums in overalls.
Well, it's awesome. I was legit, Michael. I was watching videos of you on YouTube playing on like Jonas Brothers records and stuff. Yeah. And yeah, the overalls were there. And I was like, this is so awesome.
They're always there.
It's been a motif for a few years. It just, I reached a point where I got tired of carrying a satchel everywhere I went and I just had to strip things down to the bare necessity. I was traveling a lot, and I hated to forget things, so I had to get my apparel. I needed more pockets. I needed to get things kind of focused. And I thought about it, and actually, it's a kind of a memorial to my father. He used to wear overalls quite a bit, and I unconsciously, literally, like my tailor at the time was like, "Hey man, check these out," and I didn't even think about it until sometime during the last couple of years. My dad would wear them Oshkosh bagosh, wear the blue ones with the white stripes.
The stripes.
He wore them in church playing the piano. He just, because he was, essentially grew up, the son of a farmer, and while he was musically inclined and was a gifted musician, he was the type of person who he didn't think of himself as better than anybody, but he knew his value, and it's just kind of an homage to him in a way. Just like I'm working class, I sweat for a living, I use my mind as much as I use my body, but what I wear does not necessarily define me, but it's comfortable. I got storage, and I'm ready for action. I'm a Black Mario brother. How you doing, Lon Home?
I'm great. It's so good to see all of you.
Jerry, how are you doing this evening?
Diane, if anybody wants to give me coffee, my Cash App is Julia.
You look like you've been working burning the midnight oil. You look like you've been making the campaign calls later. So is this you that keeps calling my phone with all the DNC Wisconsin?
You
don't work the phones?
I do work the phones. I don't call it Madison though. So
okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a question, and I was gonna, I wanted you to talk about what's going on with voting in Wisconsin while we were talking about it, but I have a separate question because I was asking my wife this earlier because we couldn't remember from our, times doing campaign calls and stuff like that. When you're making campaign calls, are you required to stick to the script, or are people encouraged?
So you still answer the questions that need to be answered, but you can make the script your own.
Okay, that was just a tangential question from earlier, So tell us about what's going on in Wisconsin, because are we fucked or what is?
Listen, so number one, election day is a week away. So get out and vote. The Supreme Court just decided that your ballots have to be returned by 8 p.m. on election day. It was originally postmarked, but now it has to make it to the location by election day, meaning drop your ballots off to the ballot box. Do not put them in the mailbox. Take it to the ballot box. Vote early. Do what you need to do to get your vote in. That's about it. Show up and vote. Commit to having 3 of your friends vote and pass that on so we can vote triple and get out in the highest numbers as possible. We see that they are not playing with this, especially with the Supreme Court appointment. So just vote and volunteer. I'm going to drop a link in the chat, actually, so y'all can volunteer because we need to call people and reach everybody.
So there have been a lot of talk about these fake ballot boxes turning up. I don't know if any turned up in Wisconsin. I know some turned up in California. How do we know for sure when we drop our ballots off that they're going in a legitimate ballot box?
I can also drop the link to the legitimate ballot boxes because we don't want y'all to get scammed out here.
They really are trying.
Yeah.
Well, they know they can't win fighting fair.
Exactly. Do we have are there any sort of early numbers that?
No, because they don't want to start. They refuse to start counting ballots until the night of the election, which means unless it's an extreme landslide, we are not going to know the night of the election.
So, Brandy says she'd volunteer if she could. She's in Canada. Can Canadians make U.S. campaign calls?
I do not know about that. I'm not even going to lie to you.
Oh, yeah, sorry. There's Autumn's comment. I didn't mean to put that up there, but it's a good comment to put up there.
All over again. That's what it's feeling like.
Yeah.
So, Chris, what's up? I know Michael had something to ask you.
Yeah, what's up, fellas?
No, we were just talking about this situation about Minnesota being
the sundown towns.
Sundown, yeah. It looked like you chimed in and thought maybe
here's what this is strictly just sort of like me checking the nation's temperature right now. When I see articles like that, what I think to myself is, if you're a sundown town, after election day, you're a sundown town right now. You know what I mean? Like that's my thing is like, dude, like these people are emboldened. Like the main concern that we all have right now as just regular working, living Americans with heart and soul and love for our neighbors is that there's people out here that are crazy enough to like be shocked that a New York trust fund racist is going to get beaten and then they're going to while out in the streets. Like that to me is the threat. That's the looming threat. And that's what terror is. Terror is using, violence and the threat of violence to attain political goals. So like we are living in a state of terror right now in the United States. You know what I mean? So we know that these little limp dick rednecks out here are going to get heated. And he's going to, by popular vote, he is going to be annihilated. I'm reticent to say that, especially with Jerry in here, because I know you've been working so hard. I don't want to give anyone the impression that like it's not go time right now. Like everyone needs to vote. Everyone needs to be involved in it. Everyone needs to do their part. But like when I see a Sundown Town article, what that says to me is like, be resigned to the fact that these white terrorists are going to run like this. They're just going to run wild. And we just need to kind of accept that. Like it's a sundown town. It's like, no, like absolutely not. So in this, when I see something like a Minneapolis, Minnesota being called that, it's like, no, it's not. But what it means is it may be a flashpoint for, using the sundown town analogy to me is inappropriate because that's a real thing from a real part of American history.
Chris, can we go over what does it actually mean for a town to be a sundown town?
It means that after dark, when the sun goes down, and if you are black, you are in danger, and the chances of you being killed is higher than not being killed. The areas around Mobile, Alabama in the 50s type thing, or like Pine Bluff, Arkansas, 1938 type things, like real sundown towns. Oklahoma.
There are places in Wisconsin right now that are sundown towns, like just outside of Milwaukee, that are still considered sundown towns.
Hell, Milwaukee,
right. So, I mean, I don't mean to, I hope it doesn't seem like I'm making light of it or pretending that that's not a thing. My point is that like to make these articles right now seems slightly in poor taste to me because they're using a very real part of the American experience and the terror that people have experienced to make some kind of point about, well, when Trump wins again, this is what's going to, no, like those are two different things. They're related, but they're not the same. That was my beef with it.
I get you, that they're exploiting real American history to create more tension and
hence the clickbait, hence the clickbait. And, it's just not cute. It's not cute. It's like when in the 90s and the 2000s, people started calling things ghetto, and trying to be cute about it. Like, oh, that's so ghetto. Like, don't say that.
Yeah, if you're not from the ghetto, don't talk about the ghetto.
Don't do that. Like, that's really a destructive thing to say. And you can say people who experience these things, but like seeing like white girls try to call, I'm so ghetto today. You're like, don't say that. Like, don't do that.
It's not a fashion.
It's not right. That's what it's not a choice. It's not a style, but I mean, whatever. That's another thing. I'm just reticent to use those types.
I know you got plenty of beef, man. Yeah, right.
Chris got beef with everybody.
Just get that friendly fire out the way right quick.
Right. That's all. I just gotta check my sisters. That's all right.
That's all right. You check your sisters. Somebody needs to check them.
That's what I got to do. Someone's got to.
I said it.
So has everybody here already voted early?
Yes.
I have not. I'm going day of. Day of because I got a spot right down the street, a little Korean church down the street from me that still is a polling place. I'm about to hit that. See, now where I live is like a crazy, like I'll put it this way. The Billy Graham Center is like 4 miles from where I stay. So like this is the epicenter of like Republican white Midwestern, consciousness is.
Well, why do you live there, Chris?
What's up?
Why do you live there?
Well, it's a long story of foreclosure and financial ruin.
But
these things happen. That's a story for another podcast about economic instability in working class white families. We can have that discussion on another episode of Music Politics.
Oh.
But my point is, like, when I go down the street, there's people with real I've seen, this is the thing, this is the new fashion, is these weirdo trucks with like big old flags on them, and it's a big production and a big presentation, these like weirdo flag situations. I'm like, dude, what a bunch of geeks, man. What are you dweebs doing to your F-150 that you got off your uncle when he got a DUI and couldn't drive no more, bro? Like, why are you putting flags all over it, bro? What's up with that? I don't know. I'm just seeing a lot of that type of stuff. So it's all in my neighborhood. So the thing that I'm concerned about is seeing like strapped up weirdo, incels with guns, like hanging around the polling place. Because this is the type of area where I feel like that type of mentality exists. So I'm going to roll up on them and get in their face like a can of mace and make them feel like a disgrace to their race. I'm going to put them in their place. I'm going to be like, listen, bros, get up out of here. I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote twice. What you know about me? That's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm going to do.
Michael, why did you bring Chris on? What? Why?
I needed that vanilla gangster magic.
Sorry. I just get so amped up. I'm sorry, Dan.
I love Chris. Like, Chris should always be on.
We couldn't handle Chris every week. That's
no, man, no. I'm sorry.
Off the dome, though. I mean, like, I love it. I love Chris. Chris
belongs. I love you too. It's a lot of love.
That's a lot of love.
So I'm the only one here who hasn't voted? Is that the problem?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're supposed to vote early, so you don't have to worry about voter intimidation and all that wild stuff.
Well, he's
vote early, vote often.
Voter intimidation, apparently.
I'm not endorsing this nonsense.
Voter intimidation to get you to vote.
Oh, I understand. No, it's
We're
very
working
real.
on that.
This is very real right now. This is very real.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna be all right, though. We're gonna be all right. Good people in America just need to do their part.
That's right.
It just needs to be peaceful.
Kendrick said it.
Yep. That's it. That's all. We're good.
You got a full forum going on, Dan Spiffy Neuman. What do you want to
get
into? You got 15 minutes.
I was trying to figure out what this link was that Maya sent. This is the link for the Panty Drive. I'll put that. Let me put that up there before.
What's that?
So
the Panty Drive.
What?
That sounds like R. Kelly song, don't it?
If you want to donate underwear or feminine goods that will be available to homeless women, that is our Amazon wish list, where you can make your donation contactless. It will be delivered to our coordinator, and we will make sure that the goods get out to the shelters.
All right. That's cool.
I listened to that podcast, and it really struck me because it's one thing I'd never considered before is like homeless women don't have access to clean underwear and feminine products.
Right.
That is nothing that I've ever had to consider in my life.
Well, that's right. And that's why when you see a homeless woman standing out there somewhere, a woman under those circumstances, it's important. It's important to give what you can.
Yeah.
A lot of other circumstances involved in being homeless.
Right. And then if you couple that with a woman with children, and then her having to make the decision between her last $20 going to making sure she has clean underwear or feeding herself and her kids.
Here's the other beef I got recently, because I was on my way to rehearsal, and there was a dude with a sign over by Calhoun, Lake Calhoun, which is now the bidet. They changed it back to the original Native American name. But I thought to myself that I wanted to give this guy, some cash, but I didn't have any on me. I don't really carry cash anymore. And I thought to myself, if we're really headed towards a cashless society, it's like it's a direct attack on our humanity.
Absolutely. You
can't give people cash gifts no more. You can't just help someone who's in need. Like the thought passed through my head weeks ago. I posted something about it, but it seems to be the wave of the future. It seems like in South Korea, they're very close to it already. You know,
well, look at China. Look at the social credit system in China. That to me, I remember seeing what was the movie Fahrenheit 451 when I was a kid. We read the book and then we watched the movie when I was a young kid. And the horror to me, and this was in the late 80s, early 90s, and I was still young, of everywhere you went, there's a camera on you. Everywhere you go, there's no like real freedom. And when I saw, if you guys want to be really tripped out on some Orwellian stuff, look at the social credit system in China, where everywhere you go, there's a face recognition camera on you. And like if you jaywalk, they hit your score and you'll be like, you can't travel this week. Like, oh, you bought too much alcohol last week, so you're going to be punished in this. Like, it's truly a dystopian horror to me. And society is like all those years. I mean, you know, like the war, you know, when Prince talked about the war in that one recording and stuff like that, talking about making a choice to make this like controlled lifestyle versus this. It's a very bizarre thing to have a cashless society. The freedom limitations that go along with that, it's like, that's it. It's over. Like, no more freedom of movement. You can't buy a bag of weed. You can't go give your grandma $100 after you do a gig. Like, the game changes forever after that. So
it didn't really strike me until I realized like I had no money to give this dude. It's like what's going to happen?
The banks are going to take a piece of everything. They're going to choose and pick what you can spend and where and how. I mean, that's it. Like, that's where the game's going.
Just the way humanity is being sucked out of society. It just, I mean, to me, that's just yet another manifestation of it, almost like a conditioned cruelty. You know, it's this thing that slowly is going on, you know, and if you're not careful, you won't notice it. You know?
Yeah.
It's really...
But along those lines also, I'm sorry, go ahead, Dan.
No, go ahead, Maya.
I was just going to say, along those lines, also, one of the foundations that we work with through my job is about helping women who are in domestic violence situations, who are suffering from financial abuse.
Yes.
That's one of the ways that they are controlled, because they are not allowed to have the cash to possibly escape. And then you think about a cashless society from that vantage point of, okay, even if they get some money, where are they going to get that money? And then if there are cameras everywhere trained on them, even if they're running, there's that reporting system. Whereas if they're trying to save their own lives or save the lives of their children by trying to get away, they can't really, unless there's some, you know, black market, fake name, fake identity, underground. And then you get into the whole, you know, futuristic horror movie scenarios, which are very not that far off.
And I'll tell you what really kind of capped it off, like got me starting to ruminate about this, was when I found out that the post office is so much more than just a place where people with the mail. It's like, you know, money orders and people who don't have a regular bank account and just pay their bills through the post. I had no idea how reliant, you know, lower middle class folk were on that system. I had no idea.
What?
And it's just another way you just keep strangling. You know.
Go ahead, Michael. I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No. I'm ready.
The post office used to offer check cashing, and they used to offer a lot of small banking services. And for, you know, poor communities that didn't have banks or people that couldn't afford banks, would do it through the post office. And then that was eliminated in favor of, now, if you look in so-called poor communities now, there's all these for-profit check cashing places that are predatory. And the post office used to provide all those services reasonably or for free. And I know there's been, I think it was a Bernie Sanders platform, and maybe Jerry knows, but somebody was talking about bringing that back to the post office. One of the Democratic candidates was talking about making the post office, maybe it was AOC, once again having the post office be a community banking you know, place where you can go for community banking instead of being reliant on for-profit and predatory and check cashing places. And then also, in response to Brandy's comment here, that's why I always tell people, don't don't deal with banks, deal with credit unions. Because if credit unions, they're member owned, which means once you have an account there, you're a part owner, which means you have some say. So, Jerry, do you know which candidate that was talking about that?
I have no idea.
I'm gonna see if I can find it.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I am brain dead right now.
I was so amazed at seeing all these right wingers really disrespect the postal service. Like when I was growing up, it was like the pride about the Pony Express and all that when you're a kid, and you could reach to every corner of the United States and rural people and the Tennessee Valley Act and all that stuff, making sure that all these rural people could get their mail and all their government documents and stuff. It was the envy of the logistical world, the United States Postal Service, and then to be treated like some kind of it's a huge job thing, great jobs, like, reliable retirement stuff. So to see the Postal Service be decimated like that on some right-wing nonsense was very offensive to me. Very offensive. That's a real, true American institution. Like, I mean, if you lived in a little town, you knew your mailman growing up or mailwoman.
Yeah.
That's a whole vibe. Like, I don't know. That really hurt me. Surprisingly, it shows how old I'm getting. But I was really hurt by DeJoy's attacks on the Postal Service. That broke my heart.
Just imagine having beef with the mailman. Like,
that's exactly.
Dang.
Like, who does that, man? Exactly. That's it.
But the rural people are the ones who are being hurt the most by this dismantling. So while they're again, I've said this from the first time I've been on the show, poor white people are the collateral damage of all of this back and forth. Because what is meant to hit hard to minority communities or certain demographics, white people, poor white people or lower class white people are caught in the crossfire. And they are getting hit hardest by both sides, really.
But you know what the problem with that is, though? And you're 100% right. You're so right. It like hurts. There was a book called What's Wrong with Kansas? And the problem is, and the reason I can't muster that much sympathy for those people is that they choose that for themselves. Like those people actively vote against their own interests constantly. So like, you're totally right. But I can't get past that thing where I'm like, bro, these people keep voting in these weirdo right-wing sociopaths, and they're doing it to themselves. They just do it to themselves over and over like a bunch of buffoons. So I'm
make the poorest white man believe he's better than the colored person, and you won.
Yeah, it's a variation on Stockholm Syndrome.
Exactly. That's exactly it. Yep. So I got 2 tears in the bucket for those people, man.
Well, all right. See, now you don't have to go all the way there now. No.
Sorry. I get heated, Mr. Bland. Mr. Bland, I get a little heated.
I know. We need a little pepper.
Just before, by the way,
that's Chris's name. Chris's name is White Pepper. That's it.
White Pepper.
Next time you log in, Chris, you gotta type that instead of Chris L.
I promise I will.
I put the article on the screen. It turns out it was a joint proposal between Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders. So there you go.
Interesting thing. I know. I'm watching the clock, Michael. I know the limitations. So one of the very interesting things too, you talk about the Postal Service being that very like one-stop shop for specific demographics of people. The vilification of the liquor store within urban neighborhoods completely disregarded the fact that it too was that bank, that mail for people who maybe were renting a room somewhere, didn't get room, they get their mail down at the liquor store. It was for some places, they got food there. They could have like a credit account if they knew the owner, if they were between checks. It was a way for them to survive, but it was a trusted source for them to handle all of these things, which they couldn't necessarily qualify for through a traditional bank. Or now you have to defer to the payday loan predatory, folks that move into the urban areas. They buy up all the space on urban radio. Every third commercial is, come cash your check, get your check 3 days earlier with us, whatever's going on. But it disregards and vilifies this whole narrative of liquor stores and churches on every corner without understanding what that really means to the community And a lot of the time that there was someone who lived in that community who owned that liquor store, who ran that store, who knew everybody, who watched the kids on a summer day. Okay, I see y'all taking that popsicle. It's no big deal. I'll make your daddy pay for it when he comes home later. But there was that community sense, but it's been vilified so much that people are like, oh, tear it down, change it into something else. Now you got a Starbucks on every corner that doesn't take money anymore and locks the bathrooms.
Show you right.
Was that a mic drop there?
Yes.
Go ahead, Jerry. What you get your finger up for, Jerry?
No, I just kind of wanted to echo that. Especially when it comes to food, like a lot of these poor neighborhoods don't have grocery stores. Like, where are they supposed to get their food?
Food doesn't. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny here because there's church. One of the first churches that I was a member of after I left my parents' church is on the corner in the hood, and it's right between a Burger King, a car wash, a liquor store, and some mildly projected apartments. And that church, for as long as I can remember, has been trying to buy the property that the liquor store was on so they could get that liquor store out of the community. And they finally succeeded. They tore down the liquor store and they're going to build something there. But like, yeah, there's no grocery store within walking distance. So people went to that liquor. People from the church would go to that liquor store to buy snacks after service. You know,
and maybe a little Mad Dog 2020 would not tell nobody.
Well, we're not going to talk about that. But you know, it just, yeah, it's
a hard sell, though. Don't you think it's a hard sell? Like, at least I can't speak to the other cities, but in Chicago, they're not black owned. You know, like that's a thing. Like, these are not black owned businesses. Like I can't think of one. And I've sadly, full disclosure, I've spent a lot of time in Chicago liquor stores. They're not owned by local black people. Like, so while your point is, I mean, I grew up cashing checks at Otis and Lee Liquors in Norfolk, Illinois. Like, I cashed many a check at the liquor store in my town. So I know you are 100% right about that. But it's a strange, talking about Stockholm syndrome. Like, they serve multiple masters, you know, and pun intended. Like, those liquor stores, they leave a trail of pain behind them too, whether we want to admit it or not. Because if you want to go buy dope, you go in front of the liquor store. You know, it's not just the liquor that's in the store. If you want to buy heroin in Chicago, you go to the liquor stores. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what everyone knows. So there's two sides of that coin, but your point stands. I feel you, and I've been privy to that myself. But there's two sides of that.
But you tear down the liquor stores, you tear down the liquor stores. They just want to find someplace else. The issue is not the liquor store; it's a deeper issue of the dope and the drug addicts and all those things.
Well, sure. It's just it's
a community center, and it's a sad, like, universal community center in neglected communities. You know what I mean? Like, but I wonder if it was a Starbucks, maybe they would sell heroin outside in front of the Starbucks. Maybe they would, you know, but you couldn't cash your checks in there. You know what I mean? People couldn't cash your $100 check and go buy, you know, 5 bags of blows. You know what I mean with it. So that's where you know, it goes both ways.
What I'm trying to envision is like the dope dealer standing outside of the Starbucks, you know, because there's plenty of Starbucks customers that also are dope customers. I just can't, you know, I don't know. So
they don't stand outside. They get a table and wait for you inside.
Thank you. Yes, that's what I was just about to say. I was like,
or maybe Starbucks is the dope dealer.
My wife said they're parked in the parking lot, apparently, according to my wife.
It's not Starbucks, it's the bank. Y'all heard about what happened with Chase.
Yeah, no, that's right. Tell him, Jerry. That was big, too.
I missed it. Tell me.
They, like, seized, like, hundreds of pounds of cocaine from JP Morgan Chase in New York and in Miami. Like, it was a whole thing.
Oh, I thought you were talking about that big money laundering scandal that went down with all those major. JP Morgan Chase was involved in it too.
And Wells was in it.
Yep.
And that's
where they had all those like Eastern European drug gangs were like laundering their money through Deutsche Bank and all these American banks. And then when they realized, like, oh, we had no idea that billions of dollars of just full blown, you know, cocaine and heroin money was coming through. Good point. Thank you for sharing that. That's good.
While we're on the topic of bank accounts, I've had somebody trying to convince me in the past couple of days that it's not a big deal that he who shall not be named has secret bank accounts in China. But then they also were trying to convince me that apparently Obama had some too. Like,
nah, because if he had them, they called him Beijing Barry.
Right.
Right.
He wanted to cuss so bad.
It's true though. It's true.
He can do it. He ain't the president no more. He can cuss.
He can do what he wants.
But no, because he'd be classless. He's already classless because how dare you speak
the
about
tan suit already set the precedent.
Right, the tan suit.
The tan, he was really messed up on
right,
the
yeah, how dare he disrespect the country with a tan suit? I mean, I expect that rich people have offshore accounts. Do I expect that they have them in China when they spend the majority of their time vilifying said country and making sure that, there are tariffs and whatnot that are disrupting small business and just business in general within their country that they are the leader of? No.
Well, you know how it is, Maya. You have the same sort of phenomenon when you get people who are in the closet, but they're involved in legislation.
I'm sorry, did you say Lindsey Graham? I don't. Lady G?
Oh,
you talking about Lady G?
Yeah, Mother Lindsay.
Are we not supposed to go there? We don't have to go there. That's all right.
Over time, we can go anywhere we want to. I was just Googling to see, because what I was going to mention was, like, the whole issue for me is when we talk about the person was like, well, why is it a big deal if Trump has overseas bank accounts? Because he's in debt, and we don't know who he's in debt to.
Right.
And that's something that can be used as leverage to the decisions he makes for the country. But I Googled to see how much debt he was in because I wanted to have the number right. And apparently a report came out in the last 4 hours that his debt is apparently $1.1 billion. That's a new news article from 4 hours ago. So I missed that. But apparently our esteemed current president has $1.1 billion in debt. And I mean, I don't know if we even know who any of this, like, who does he owe this money to?
Right.
Like,
first of all, he owes the American people a whole lot of money, only paying $750 in taxes.
Yeah.
I pay more than that in
prepaid millions
per paycheck.
He prepaid millions.
Well, I'll tell you who we know for sure that he owes money to, because in the fallout of the Soviet Union in the late 80s and early 90s, there was many, many, many Russian and Eastern European million and billionaires who it's called capital flight, where they took all their money out of Eastern Europe. And that's one of the main reasons that the Russian Federation struggled so much, was because they took all the money from there and put it in London, in New York, in Chicago. So the big money players from Ukraine and Russia, there's a reason why dude married a Slovakian girl. There's a reason why dude was hanging out with the Russian mafia all the time. And Lev Parnas and Igor Shlavovsky, or whatever the guy's name was. This is a whole culture. And I've seen some of these people out where I stay. It's a very interesting culture, but there's big, big money coming out of Eastern Europe. So I'm not saying that China's not involved, but I can almost guarantee you, because that was the main player that were involved in the bank drug laundering scheme that Jerry was so wise to bring up, was that there's some big money in Russia, big money, more billionaires in Russia than people realize. So he's got a few handlers across the world who they want to get paid back on that investment they made, for sure. And I can
who knows what he might have to do to
that's it. Right. I mean, like, this is the thing that people never understand. I mean, with my little bachelor's degree in political science, can tell someone this, like, we all know this. It's like, if you were Vladimir Putin, who would you want to be president? The person who undermines all of our institutions, takes us out of the Paris Accords, makes us an international laughingstock. He's doing more damage to us than they could ever do from the inside. Like, that's why, they act like he's some kind of like big disruptor. It's like, no, he's a clown. He's a joke. Real rich people in New York think he's a clown. Like Bloomberg and all those people, they just laughing him behind his back. They've been doing this for 30, 40 years in New York. That's why all the New York people just don't even give him the time of day.
You want to hear a stolen joke about him?
Yeah, they just rip on him. He's a clown. He's been a clown his whole life. Like he's like a TV show clown shoe type guy. You know, he's not to be taken seriously, but yet the rednecks in America think he's some kind of god. You know, so.
Well, you want to hear my favorite stolen joke about him?
Oh, your favorite joke?
Yeah, my favorite stolen joke. I got this off watching my favorite Anthony Bourdain. May he rest in eternal peace. Somebody said,
Michael,
why does 45 like putting his name all over buildings?
Why is that?
So the banks know which one to repossess.
Oh,
Michael, rim shot. Hey, the week that I have the organ, Michael will have at least a snare and a hi-hat.
That was like the Chapter 11 Hillary joke. That was she smashed in with that Chapter 11 line.
Oh yeah, that was pretty good for Hillary.
That was fresh, Hillary.
yeah.
So proud of you, Miss Rod.
Waka waka waka.
that
waka waka waka.
Waka.
Yeah, that's a good stand-up right there, Fozzie Bear. Jerry, you said something earlier, but then we kind of went a different direction. What were you trying to say? I know you're a zombie right now.
I'm not even gonna lie to you. I have no idea what I was gonna say.
Okay. Well, if we're still here and it comes back to you, then interrupt whoever's talking. Yes. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad we're having the chance to have this little round table before the election next week. Even though Chris is the slacker that hasn't voted yet, get on it, Chris.
Good
quote, Todd.
Oh yeah. Who's that actually attributed to?
What?
That quote of Todd's that I put up.
He forgot where he saw it.
Yeah. I'm gonna look it up.
Superman's idea of a smart man. Yeah, it's the same people who believe that wrestling is real.
Hey, listen, let's not get disrespectful, Mr. Bland. Okay, don't make me have to tell you about the history of American pro wrestling and its impact on American popular culture.
WWF? You're going to run down WWF to me? You're going to legitimize?
Go back all the way to the early 1900s when it was still a legitimate competition.
Are you talking about when they boxed like this?
When they used to box, they used to have when farm boys. It was a traveling carnival show, and then they'd local boy in the town would win $50 if he could last a minute in the ring with a professional shooter, as they called them, guys who knew how to twist people up. Did you know that the first person ever considered a pop culture icon in the United States was Gorgeous George? He was the first televised, before there was Ric Flair, there was Gorgeous George with his platinum blonde hair.
Yeah, he looked like a TV evangelist.
Exactly.
With a cape on and whatnot.
Great athlete. He was a real tough guy. But he used to have his hair and stuff. He used to go up to women in the crowd and hit on them in front of their husbands, and they'd get off. There's a lot of history in that pro wrestling. I mean, that goes way back.
I'm just saying, if you think Hulk Hogan, I'll just stop right there.
We're not talking about Hulk.
All right.
You're right. I'm over here defending wrestling.
Well, so my wife is a huge wrestling fan.
Which era? Because see, I'll go back to All-Star Wrestling, but you wouldn't know none of the people I'm talking about.
You're from Minneapolis, so you had the Gagnes and stuff, right?
We had Vern and Greg Gagne. We had the High Flyers. We had the Crusher from Milwaukee.
Ooh, the Crusher.
Come up. And we had Dick the Bruiser. We had Rufus R. Railroad Jones. We had the Claw, Baron von Raschke. We had Mad Dog Vachon. We had all these dudes.
Mad Dog Vachon out of Montreal, Canada.
Jesse the Body Ventura.
Hey, that was your governor for a while.
Yeah, that's how much we loved All-Star Wrestling. Mean Gene. What was his last name? I can't remember his last name.
Kurt Hennig, Larry the Axe Hennig.
Larry the Axe Hennig.
Yeah,
he always got beat.
Man, he was a real tough dude, man.
Oh yeah, what about Kenny the Sod Buster Jade?
Oh gosh, listen, see, this is that local. But see, you remember the local wrestling when it used to be a town to town thing, because Minneapolis had the Gagnes, and then Chicago,
And this is like right around the time like the racist names were starting to stop, but they had a Native American, and his name was Wahoo McDaniel. Wahoo McDaniel.
Yeah, he was a real tough dude, man.
Todd, you're gonna have to mute your sound.
Getting the Sod Buster Jade.
Todd, you're an audio technician. You should know better than this. You're gonna have to mute your sound.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Hear me now.
So you asked when do you get to barge in? I figure since we're already just bullshitting over time, this is as good a time as any. Ladies and gentlemen, Todd, one of our regular viewers, and he was actually in my wedding.
Oh, what's up, Todd?
Yeah. Hey guys.
What's going on, Todd?
Oh, not much. Just hanging out. My drink is almost broken, but that's
all right. This must be a good time to put one on you, Todd. What made you change? I need to know what made Todd Tips change party.
Oh man, it's a long story. It was a long drawn out process. But I used to be a fairly right wing fundamentalist type of guy, and it was kind of funny. I had been hanging around with more United Methodist people who were often can be a little more progressive. And one guitar player I was playing with turned me on to Bruce Coburn, the Canadian songwriter, who and his music kind of opened me up to a broader perspective on international issues and things like that, human rights issues. And then I met Liz. Oh, the dogs are good. I got my nice little red pit bull is laying by my feet right now. Jillian, she's annoying, but she's good. She's kind of dumb, but she's cool. We love her anyway. But in 2002, my now wife Liz lured me up here to Wisconsin and fed me a cheese curd, and I never went away. And being in the Madison area opened me up to to different perspectives. And like for example, I realized gay people are actually the way they are, and their love for each other is as natural as ours was, and I really can't throw rocks at them for that. And also being in between jobs, I discovered how really wonderful it is to have health insurance, and how wonderful it would be if there was such a thing as universal health care, like civilized, technologically advanced societies like Germany, for example, have. And we're almost more a banana republic of better cheeseburgers than a civilized society over here. When we could be leading the world in these things instead of trailing. I mean, we're laughably fast trailing when it comes to healthcare, other quality of life issues. It's embarrassing, frankly. But yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell.
Okay.
A little more progressive view on things, and more liberal and broad approach to faith as well. I'm not pragmatic and rigid as I used to be.
Were you taught otherwise, or did you just come to an understanding on your own?
I pretty much came to that understanding on my own. The more I lived, I wasted 13 years of my life listening to that flaming Nazi gas bag Rush Limbaugh.
Oh boy,
I didn't know that.
He'll do it. Won't he do it?
I don't know. I don't know if we would have been friends if I would have known that. That would have been, Yeah. I mean, I know you've been delivered from Rush Limbaugh, but even just having that in your past, I mean,
Shondo.
You just shondoed him.
Sean dies on that one.
So.
Can I get an amen from the house? But, yeah. But,
no.
Oh dear God. But yeah.
That's
good. Dan, you knew me post Rush. I pretty much was completely done with that whole arena of bullshit. By the time we first started hanging out, be quiet. Nobody wants to hear you. Maybe that was
You can show the dog in the camera. You can show the dogs in the camera.
Here's Jane.
Who do we got?
There we go. There's Jane.
Oh, hey, Jane.
There's Jane. Well, where's you guys? You good girl. Of course not.
Jane dangerous?
Todd and his wife rescue pit bulls and bulldogs. How many? They've had as many as 15 in their house. I think right now it's a lower number, right, Todd? How many dogs are there currently?
We have 2 bull mastiffs, a pitty, and a Rottweiler now.
So,
And
but
the Mastiff carrying on back in the dog room. And the Brindle Mastiff Atticus and the Rottweiler are the ones who want to live as coworkers. They're kind of a long-term dog fit. As far as our own animals, we're down to just Amos and Jane. You know, Amos the Bull Mastiff and Jane.
Oh.
And then otherwise we've got 2 African spur-thighed tortoises, sulcatas, and they're big. And then we have a Russian tortoise and 2 little Russian tortoises and a red tortoise. You like that?
Yeah, it's a lot, but I mean,
well, you usually had my house in your GPS as Mount Horeb Zoo.
Mount Horeb Humane Society is how I have your house saved in my GPS. What's that sound in the background though? Is it the way your phone is set up? Something's really loud in the background.
Well, there's Atticus is yelping back there.
No, not that. It's like a white noise.
Oh, that's the fan in my MacBook. The processor is getting a little overworked.
Oh wow.
Oh, okay. We'll have to get a different lap. Yeah, it's gone now.
I'm on my MacBook Pro here.
Oh, we'll have to get you a different MacBook next time. So.
Well, next time I'll join in my studio for my iMac. It's a lot quieter. And I've got my organ and my Rhodes and my Wurlitzer in there. So
yeah, so he's ready to back the preacher. I'm not equipped for that, but he's ready.
Now?
Yeah.
I had the wrong dude the whole time.
I can't quite do the preacher chords like Dan can because he's the master of the gospel thing. Yeah, I can do the Booker thing good, but he does it. But I can hold my own okay at it if I practice more of that kind of genre.
Yeah, I might have something I want you to play on. I'm not 100% certain, but I might need that. I need that Stax.
Well, hit me up.
Stax.
Oh yeah, I'm into the Stax groove.
So you got that Al Green organ player that you got that Love and Happiness on you?
Yeah, that's Royal Studios, High Records.
Oh, that's right. That's Memphis.
Charlie Hodges. I can do that. I can do Charlie Hodges type of stuff.
All right.
Even sneak in a little Billy Preston too.
What's that?
Even sneak in a little Billy Preston too. He's another one of my heroes.
Really? You can get little Billy. That little Billy go a long way.
Not to the level that Corey Henry can nail, because that dude. That dude
is from Saturn.
Yeah, Corey. I had the unique privilege when playing with Joey Banks. We opened for Corey Henry down at Reggie's in Chicago.
Okay.
And Corey needed a B3, so I took my 63 B3 down there with Benson pedals, and we played our set, and then Corey played my organ for his. And getting to watch him up close playing is just mind blowing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I was almost afraid to touch my B3 after he played.
I get it.
Did you have Sheree Reed playing with him on bass when he was out there at Reggie's?
Yeah, I think Sheree Reed was on bass.
Those guys are like, they're linked. They got that, Sonny T, Michael Thompson, Sonny Thompson.
Wait, what?
Michael Bland
Who's
vibe.
Michael Thompson?
No, I mean,
I don't know that guy.
They got that Sonny Bland and Michael Thompson.
Right.
I'm saying that bond, those two, they got that.
Yeah, the kinetic, the mind mold.
The mind mold vibe, those two. Yeah, that's the one right there.
Todd, I'm gonna cut your feed just because that noise is really making it really hard to hear. But thanks for stopping in.
Yeah, well, thanks for letting me stop in. We'll do it again with the iMac in the studio. That'll work a little better, I think.
All right. Well, good to see you there, Todd.
See you, brother.
Oh man, he was off like that.
Oh no, I did that because I got tired of trying to listen through the white noise.
I noticed. It was like, okay, Dan does it. Yeah, all right, man.
I'm trying to, because he's an audio engineer. He should have the better technology. He's,
all right,
what do they say? The cobbler's children go barefoot.
Right. Ooh, good one. That's a good one.
So,
yeah. Fix-It Man got 4 pipes.
This sounds like a story.
What's that?
I'm guessing that's Icky James. It doesn't say whose comment it was.
Ooh. I don't know who that might be, but only a few people know we cut with Billy Preston.
Let me go. I can go see. I can go look in the group.
What did you all cut?
There's a record by Sam Moore of Sam and Dave. That look at that.
Oh, I took the comment. Try again, Jerry. Sorry.
Oh. and Randy Jackson hired us to play on it. And nobody mentioned to us that Billy Preston was coming. It was me and Sonny and Kenneth Crouch and Rob Bacon on guitar.
Oh.
And we were just in there funking. And Kenneth was on the organ. And this little dude walked in holding like a couple packages of Twinkies and a cup of coffee. And Billy came right behind him. And Kenneth, he saw Billy Preston and got immediately up from the organ. Like, just, okay. Let me go back to this motif over here in the corner. And, man, it's I think we did a remake of we covered I Can't Stand the Rain and maybe one other one that day. And I was asking Billy Preston questions in between. Did you really play Warlick on Family Affair? Yep. Is it true that you and Sly were going to start a band called the Sons of Ray? Like a tribute, like a Ray Charles? Yep. We used to sit. He had two organs, and they used to sit like in front of each other, and we would read the Bible, we'd read the scripture, and we play the hymns, and all that just tore me up. And we got to the point where we actually he was like, "Are you fellas interested in coming to Arizona? And, I'm working on a record." And me and Sonny looked at each other like, "Yes." Are you kidding me? And it wasn't much later than that his kidneys failed, that he died.
Oh.
So we never got to do that, man. But he was really digging what was happening, and it was like, oh man, if we could have cut with him doing his thing, and he just happened to be in town doing another tribute to George Harrison. He's like, yeah, I'm here to just play My Sweet Lord again, at the Hollywood Bowl, and then I'm headed back. But yeah, his manager was there and everything. We got to talking about it, and it's just one of those things that never came to pass, man. But I'm glad I had the honor. I mean, I don't think he used his right hand his right hand, his left hand. He had his coffee in the left hand. He was pulling drawbars and playing. He never put his coffee cup down.
Wow.
And he was just killing it. Oh, man.
That's great.
Yeah.
To be a fly on the wall for that. Did you ever meet his sister?
No. You know her, right?
I did. Well, she passed, but I knew his sister played too, and she wasn't on his level, but she was you might even know Regina Preston because she was an LA fixture for years.
I feel like I encountered her.
I'll send you a picture. You might have, because she was all involved in the Los Angeles church and church music scene. And she can play. I mean, she was.
I have a recollection as a child of going to church with my grandmother, and it was her neighbor's church. And my grandma was super excited to go because Billy Preston was playing, and his sister was directing the choir.
Oh.
A couple Sundays, because she was a Billy Preston fan from other things, but of course she was going.
Oh, watch out now!
And I remember that when you said his sister, I was like, okay, that's starting to make sense. And yeah, that she was directing the choir maybe, but whatever it was, and it was a church over on the east side in LA. And yeah,
that's her right there with me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, if she looks familiar,
30 years ago. So.
Oh, okay. So she didn't look like old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I never got to meet Billy, but I was really honored to know her because she was, she was a legend in her own right, especially in that West Coast church scene.
Sure.
And she could play. I mean, she would still, even when she was, I don't remember how old she was when she died. She had to be in her 80s or 90s, and she would still get up and play.
Let me say one thing before. Well, hi Z. It's great to see you. But I just want to know if Giria recognizes one of these Billy Preston songs. You know this song? Let's see. Which one should I try? Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. You gotta have something. Okay, you know, I got a song, ain't got no melody. I'm gonna sing it to my friends.
I barely made the 90s. Like I barely
right.
One more. You've heard these on commercials.
Wait.
Right.
Wait. I'm gonna give her the piece.
Okay, let me look on Spotify. Hold on.
Wait. You know this one? You are so beautiful.
I know that one.
Duh. I knew you had one in there. Well, I had one in me. That's Billy Preston. No, hardly anybody knows who wrote that song. Joe Cocker made it famous, but Billy Preston wrote that song.
Did he?
Yes. Mm-hmm. You hear them church changes in there?
Yeah.
I'm saying no, but Joe Cocker killed it.
He did what he could do.
Leon Russell was his.
No, that was the sanctified.
Yeah, but I mean Billy Preston. My goodness. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
he's the only person who was ever a member of the Beatles and the Stones.
That's what I was gonna say. I was like, man, you get those Beatles. His royalty checks with the Beatles must have been outrageous.
Oh no,
like just unreal.
Yeah,
he played on "Let It Be" for God's sake.
Right.
Exactly.
He played the gig on "Let It Be." You're like, bro.
What about Jerry is a church girl though? So what about "That's the Way God Planned It"?
I don't believe she would have heard that.
Okay.
He's like, why don't you old people get off me now?
I guarantee, because Jerry, because your pastor pulls out some old songs that are even old.
My pastor puts me to sleep
with them old songs.
Love pastor, love him. That man puts me to sleep. I'm glad we moved to the digital church because I could not sit in church for 2 hours any longer. Couldn't do it. My attention span. 2 hours minimum. It was closer to 3.
Yeah. Black people want to turn church loose. Because he Dan's that way about music politics. He's going to pass the offering plate one more time.
Pastor was like, I'm going to put a gallon in the pint. No, he puts a pint in a gallon. Oh, my goodness. That man is long way.
I'm going to tell you, Pastor, you out here talking about him on the TV.
I'm going to tell Pastor.
He going to text me, daughter? Daughter, what did you say?
V. Johnson, I want an update.
Update. I just finished working out. I have no more gas left in my tank, which is a good thing. This is day 69 of working out consistently. So just trying to clear my body, clear my mind. I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. Very peaceful, very calm, trying to enjoy life, find beauty in people, and enjoy the 3 friends I have left.
Well, I was going to ask about your any news on the horizon about a change in vocation or a different location.
No, I'm sticking it out here. I'm staying in Republican Town, and that's okay with me. Right. I have a lot of students here, and I think that the kids here in old suburban Woodlands, Texas, need to be around someone who thinks differently than their parents, because otherwise, if I don't burst the bubble, it will always be a bubble. So me having an hour with your kid every week can do more help than you harming them and poisoning them with religion and politics, because music speaks so many different languages.
Well,
and if I can't tell you right out that Black Lives Matter, there are a lot of musicians with entire catalogs that will teach you about the way the real world works.
Yes.
And I'm trying to because I'm lucky because I teach privately. So the curriculum is whatever I want it to be. If I want to teach you Prince for 4.5 months, then I'm teaching you Prince for 4.5 months. Well, what was he talking about? I had a student ask me today, hey, I listened to the song This Is America because I was teaching him bar chords on his guitar. And I said, okay, well, we'll learn This Is
This Is America by Childish Gambino, because it has some funky stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
And as they're getting all these lyrics in their head, they have questions. And that's the best I can do, because I don't have children. So the way that you leave people with truth is teach them something that they understand, that they are in love with, and try to get them to see a different side, and also experience life with people that are on a different side, that are from a different background. So yeah, so I'm staying here. I'm sticking it out. I'm teaching. I have a very, very hefty teaching schedule. I have a lot of students.
Yes.
That's not something, as someone who plays music and teaches music, and I love teaching music. Some people love to play, and some people they can't teach, and some people love to teach and they can't play live. I'm one of those people that I can thrive playing live, but I absolutely love the time that I get with young people. And that's something that sort of my life has evolved into, because I didn't think I was going to be a teacher. And then I got to do life with these kids and see them grow up, and I fell in love. And so I love being in a community where kids can come over my house and they can hang out with me. They can come hang out in my studio that I have here, and just, be in a different environment. And sometimes what I'm finding is music saves a lot of people, like it did me, but even though we're in an affluent area and these kids have everything, sometimes they don't have attention. Sometimes they don't have love. Sometimes they don't have empathy and compassion. And that's an area where I'm needed. And I love that so much that I'll stick out the other part of not being able to be in the church full time and blah, blah, blah. But there's a deeper need for that part of my life here. Absolutely. Going to be great somewhere in a city where nobody knows me. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I guess, and I appreciate your response, but I guess I was specifically in mind, I was thinking about the whole saga with your church.
Oh, well,
has there been any resolution, anything moving in any direction? Have you started working at a different church?
I haven't started working at a different church. I'm looking for a church to sit in, where I don't have to, where I'm not a hired gun, because that is exasperating. And my new motto is, just because you can help a church's music department doesn't mean you should. Because your peace is very important. There's nothing like a church music department that will ruin your walk spiritually.
Well,
you have to be a very strong person, and you have to have your own relationship with Christ, because people will ruin it for you if if you leave it up to people. So, yeah, there's no resolution with a good old Carbon Church in Conroe, Texas, off of Highway 105. They're still racist.
Call them out.
They are still racist, but and I wouldn't say I'm not going to dwell on it, because I have to face it.
Yes.
I see people in the community all day, every day, but I can't let that affect my love for what I do.
That's right.
I love what I do, and I'm good at being a Swiss Army knife in a church's music department. I'm good. I'm worth my weight. I know that. And those people are not going to change my perception of that, because I have proof. My body of work proves that. So I'm just sitting here waiting for COVID to be over, so that more people have a need for people in rotation. I'll get into a rotation. I still love Jesus. I still love some churches. I still love some pastors, but I see people for what they are, and some people don't like that, and that's okay. That's okay. Some people need to be in their bubble. They need to be safe, but there are some people who are real, and there are some people who love God and want to do the right thing and will live full frontal to do that. So when I'm going to prepare myself mentally and spiritually, so that when my paths cross with those people, that it is beneficial for both of us.
That's right. You dress for the job you want, not the one you got.
Right. So
Amen.
I know that I have a mega church skill set. And I know that sometimes my mouth and me being outspoken and very political and very progressive is a problem for a lot of people. But when I find the key hole that my key fits into, it's going to be awesome. So I'm not worried about that.
I got you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you still have the victory.
Oh yeah, man, that is never lost. Sometimes it's on the back burner, but it's never lost. When you really know who God is, you really know who God is.
Amen. And can't nobody tell you different.
That's right.
Chris Lundholm, you want to put something on that?
Listen, I can't add any oil to Z's.
It's already slippery enough.
Listen, Z, hey, I'm trying to be like, first of all, you sounded real good on that track you did the other day. I was feeling that.
It was fun. I have no idea how to pronounce any of that. I know they're from West Africa.
You were killing that vibe though. You straight played in that groove real tough. That was nice to me.
I tried to watch it. It wouldn't load up for me.
Man. Well, you know, sometimes when you use copyrighted music, some countries or some states or areas of the country, you can't get the audio. But I have it on Instagram. It's on Instagram. You can check it out.
On IG, but I'll keep trying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a vibe though. I enjoyed that. I'm just gotta get over my jealousy of your triceps right now though. That's something I'm struggling with. Because your triceps jacked and you're over there getting it in, doing like Roman sit-ups, and I'm just like,
oh my God.
Doing it.
So all y'all are hanging out throughout the week without me, sounds like, because y'all are working out together and listening to music together, and I'm just like, I didn't even know y'all were friends. So okay, I see how it is.
This girl's like a hero to me. This one's like one of my heroes, man.
That's crazy.
Chris Lundholm can't have any outside friends.
So no, I can't remember who I was talking to. I'll say it was Maya because she's here on the show right here, but it might have been somebody else. One of my favorite things that happens with this show is I love when the show is over and then I go and see the people who were on the show, and then like suddenly I have a whole bunch of mutual friends with them that I didn't before. Yeah. I love those connections that get made. Like Jerry, how many people are you friends with now that you weren't before you were first on the show?
Not that many. I don't add people.
Well, people added you. People added you then because you got.
I don't accept a lot of people. I probably have like 5 or 6 new friends. Like
that's a lot though. 5 or 6 new people as the result of a, I mean, because
showing.
Anyhow, so you're gonna call me old because most of us here are so famous and important that our friends lists are full, Jerry. So 5 is a lot, and we have to make room for them, Jerry. So, anyhow, as I was saying, I'm sorry that I picked the worst possible example, and then for that, even though I know that you added some people. Anyhow,
right.
Okay.
I mean, this has been lovely, but we had it on 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah. Can I do an announcement before we wrap it up?
That's what I was going to say. Please, Jerry.
Yeah.
Say what you need to say.
Please go vote, please. And women who are watching, go get IUDs or implants or something. And yeah, go vote. And turn your ballots in. Don't put them in the mail.
Can you articulate why it's important to go get birth control right now?
Because the new lady who they confirmed, Amy Coney Barrett, is insane and doesn't believe in birth control or abortion or anything. And she's insane. So go get your IUDs because you don't want to end up with a baby because you're not going to be able to have an abortion either. So,
well, that's a frank way of putting it.
Huh?
Right.
If that's what you choose.
Yeah, if you choose to, yeah. But if you know you don't want to have no kids, you might want to go get an IUD right now.
If you know you're not ready, or if you know you can't afford no baby.
Yeah, because I can't afford none either. And I'm tired of taking care of other people's baby. I can't even have my own children.
That's right. If you can't afford it, don't do it.
Some of us pay taxes.
And like,
Some
if
of
you
us.
think you would be a bad parent, like, just go do it.
Okay, definitely. Michael's right. This is definitely time to wrap it up. But
If you are going to have your baby in the Walmart with a pepper on while you fully dressed, please go get your IUD. Please. We are tired of watching your children walk around Walmart barefoot. I'm trying to pick out grapes.
Go to Target.
Pick out grapes.
Is this a thing that happens?
Yeah.
As a former Walmart employee, yes, it does.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
oh, thank you to Facebook user. This is for Wisconsin.
All right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So this has been an unexpected surprise to have everybody hanging out tonight, and I loved Representative Jasmine. How about you guys?
She was amazing. Yo, that was
on point.
I really loved her. I hope we get to talk to her again. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for this unexpected pre-election panel. This has been a nice way to boost our spirits before next Tuesday. Michael, you want to remind everybody what we got next Tuesday?
Oh, you have them Rowdy Boys will be on along with me. Soul Asylum on election night. We're gonna chop it up. We're gonna talk about whatever we want to talk about. But one thing is for sure, it's not gonna be dull. It's not gonna be boring. We're gonna bring it.
Soul Asylum is how would you describe Soul Asylum to people that don't know, Michael?
I can't even put it into words for me right this second. But I don't know. I can't. I'm too close to it. I don't have enough.
So Michael's been touring with Soul Asylum for almost 20 years now, and if you like Michael, if you like how he plays or you like how he thinks, then it's a band you might just be interested in. Because if you took Michael's brain and put it through an alternative rock or punk rock lens, you would get Soul Asylum.
Yeah, it's music to fight by, really. It's like rugby music.
So, well, thank you everybody that hung out with us for an extra 45 minutes. We will see you next week, where I'm sure Dave Perner will have us here at least this long if Janine doesn't cut him off.
Janine will have him off at 8:50. So you want cover your recording.
Maya, would you pray us out?
Oh wow!
For Amy Coney Barrett. Amy Coney
Laura Ingalls Wilder. What did you say?
She dropped a Coney Barrett.
Lord, he knows my heart.
Protect
Oh
us.
my God.
Okay. I'm not going to keep Michael from his cauliflower. I'm ending the broadcast. Thanks for watching.
I had a little something a little earlier, so I wouldn't be,
angry.
Yeah.
I was like, what's with Michael wanting to stick around this long? I'll hang out all night if I can get to go pee, but
But the cauliflower is calling now.
Is it good? Do you have any?
Not yet.
Tell us how it is. Okay. Show's over. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.